channel after news channel after news channel. Ever wonder why they report the same news? This is Wake Up America.
Brought to you by Citizen Stringer.
The media has become absolute lunacy. What makes us different? We just tell the truth. Daily headlines, politics, social issues, focusing on headlines that the mainstream media ignores. Conservative to the core and honest, sometimes to a fault. Unapologetically American. Welcome to Wake Up America with your host, Stephen Oatley.
Ew. I can't hear myself. There, now I can. How you guys doing? Welcome to the show. This is going to be a very special, long episode of Wake Up America. Today we've been covering the Uvalde school shooting hearing that's been taking place in Texas. We covered that all day. It's actually still going on, but I decided that I didn't want to be here all night long tonight, so we are interrupting that. We are going to be live everywhere until 6 o'clock, and then we will stay live on social media. Pete Santilli will interrupt us on Citizen Stringer and Citizen Stringer Radio, and his show will run till 9 o'clock, at which time this show will likely repeat on Citizen Stringer and Citizen Stringer Radio. You're welcome for that, scheduling conflict. Anyway, for anyone just tuning in, my name is Steve. I'm awesome. That's my name. I'm Steve. I'm awesome. Yeah, that's how it goes. This show is Wake Up America. It's 5 o'clock Eastern. We actually started right on time today. It is June 21st, Tuesday, I believe. No, Wednesday. What is today? Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. And we're going to talk about the January 6th hearing. We're all going to watch it. If you already watched it earlier today, well, I don't know what to tell you, because I'm going to watch it live with all of you, and we'll provide some facts and all that stuff. But first, I have to ask a very serious question of all of you guys. A very serious question. Is it possible that Russia attacked a Texas oil refinery on June 8th? Some people are thinking it was. Apparently, at the same time as Russia was invading Ukraine in February, they were also targeting reconnaissance operations against a major U.S. liquefied natural gas exporter named Freeport LNG. Now, you may be curious, well, how do we know that? Well, because we know. But you may be saying, well, how does that have, if they were doing a reconnaissance, right? If they were doing surveillance back on a United States, critical infrastructure, right? Liquid national, it's gas. It's a refinery. That's what they're attacking. You may or may not know, maybe if you live in Texas, you probably heard it. A oil pipeline actually exploded on June 8th. And guess who owned it? Freeport LNG. So according to two sources, this is from the Washington Examiner, according to two sources, around the time Russia's late February invasion in Ukraine, a cyber unit of Russia's GRU military intelligence service again conducted targeting reconnaissance operations against a major U.S. liquefied natural gas exporter. U.S. LNG exports have long been a priority concern for Russia, viewed by Russian President Vladimir Putin as means for the United States to undercut Russia's domination of the European gas market. On June 8th, Freeport LNG suffered an explosion at its liquefaction plant and export terminal on Texas's Quintina Island. The damage suffered means the facility is not expected to resume operations until late 2022. September is what they're saying. The June 8th interruption had an immediate impact in the spiking already soaring European gas prices and has reinforced Russia's ability to hold gas supplies to Europe at risk in retaliation for the European Union's sanctions imposed on Russia over the war with Ukraine. U.S. LNG futures have fallen significantly since the explosion. One source tells the Washington Examiner that the FBI is investigating the cause of the explosion. Responding to a question as to whether the FBI and its cyber division were involved in the investigation, the FBI apparently told the Washington Examiner, "We can neither confirm nor deny the existence of an investigation into this matter," which means, yes, they are investigating this matter. But what actually happened on June 8th? Well, on June 14th press release from Freeport LNG notes that the incident occurred in pipe racks that support The transfer of LNG from the facility's LNG storage tank area to the terminal's dock facilities. Preliminary observations suggest the incident resulted from the overpressure and rupture of a segment of an LNG transfer line, leading to the rapid flashing of LNG and the release and ignition of the natural gas vapor cloud. Additional investigation is underway, and they're determining whether the underlying precipitating events that enabled the overpressure continues in the LNG piping. The statement added that federal authorities are assisting in its investigation. However, what's not explained is how critical overpressure event could have occurred without safety systems kicking into action. Two LNG pipeline experts I talked to, or not I, the Washington Examiner author, who both asked to remain anonymous due to potential retaliatory damage to their business interests, say the pipeline corrosion and other material failures can cause critical incidents. Still, the FBI's investigative involvement, the specific nature of this explosion, and the scale of damage incurred raise major questions. The experts suggested that piping from a storage tank to a terminal, as in this explosion, should have had extensive safeguards to prevent overpressure events. One expert was highly confident that the control of the pipeline flows would be undertaken from a networked control facility. That brings us to the Russian cyber unit involved in the targeting reconnaissance against Freeport LNG. Named Xenotime by researchers, the unit has utilized boutique Triton and Trisis malware developed by the Russian Ministry of Defense Central Scientific Research Institute of Chemistry and Mechanics. That malware is designed for the seizure of industrial control systems and the defeat of associated safety systems. In 2017, Britain's version of the NSA equivalent Signals Intelligence Service outlined the need for network compartmentalization, full of weird words, to protect safety systems against this malware better. In March 2022, the FBI warned that Trisis malware remained a threat. Xenotime is assessed by the U.S. and British governments as critical infrastructure-focused, advanced persistent threat actors. The unit's modus operandi involves targeting industrial control systems and supervisory control systems in order to effect unilateral control of a network. Xenotime has caused specific concern in Western security circles for its targeting of safety systems that would otherwise mitigate threats to life, such as a cyber attack. Xenotime's activities escalated in 2022, evincing as much in April 13th U.S. government cybersecurity warning noted by compromising and maintaining full system access, industrial control system, and safety devices, threat actors could elevate privileges and disrupt critical devices or functions. This concern is not theoretical. In 2020, the U.S. Treasury Department sanctioned the Central Scientific Research Institute of Chemistry and Mechanics, linking it to a 2017 attack on a Saudi oil facility. Experts believe the attack would have caused loss of life had the hackers not made a coding error that enabled the detection. But the threat remains. A 2018 presentation on Xenotime by the Dragos cybersecurity firm notes that the Trisis Triton capability is not specific to one safety system, such as Schneider Electric System, involved in the 2017 Saudi incident. Dragos also notes that Xenotime is a highly patient actor focused on establishing the ability to operate across a server to effect maximum compromise of key systems. While Freeport LNG explosion remains under investigation, multiple sources told the Washington Examiner they were struck by the overpressure event along a key pipeline transit route and the evident failure of all safety systems to actually engage to stop said explosive, terrorist attack or act of war. I mean, let's be honest, this isn't a terrorist attack. And Joe Biden also said that Russia would, or had a high probability of attacking our critical infrastructure, right? Well, it looks like they may have, according to the Washington Examiner, and these experts who wish to remain unnamed. It seems that maybe that just did happen. If Russia is responsible for the Freeport LNG incident, it breached explicit warnings from President Joe Biden against critical infrastructure attacks. Technically, it would have conducted an act of war on U.S. soil. The question is, will we ever know what actually happened? If Freeport LNG was unable to detect a major cyber intrusion and the capture of its systems, attributing Russian culpability may be an extraordinarily difficult It may be difficult. Deficient cyber forensics is an issue that afflicts many private sector organizations. So we're going to have to wait and see. Did they attack the United States on June 8th and everyone is quite aware of it? I personally believe it. And you know why I believe it? I believe it because I've been hooked on watching 24 for the past couple of days. And I believe that there's so much that this government hides from us every single day. So it's kind of crazy. Speaking of crazy, just an update on the war with Ukraine and Russia. It's still going on, but something new happened in Ukraine today, which is very like Biden-esque, right? You know, with the disinformation board and all the stuff that's been going on with this current administration. The Zelenskyy administration, you know, Zelenskyy is the president of Ukraine, has essentially banned, they've shut down the opposition party in that country. They've put the president of the opposition. So this would be like you go after Republicans. This is what's happening in Ukraine, right? The country that we're giving billions and billions of dollars to in military aid all the time. So what Zelenskyy did is he just, I guess back in March, they passed legislation that allowed them to go after political organizations that act on the behest of Russia or that are Russia sympathizers or something like that. So based on the news reporting that I was able to gather, it seems that they've done this with 11 political opposition parties to Zelensky's party. The latest one, they seized all the funds. They basically banned it and said it's outlawed. And if you associate with it, you're going to be arrested. And it's kind of scary because that is going on. They even put, that would be like they put the opposition party's leader on house arrest. That would be like they go up to Donald Trump and say you're on house arrest. That's what's going on because people are just not believing what's happening within that government. There's a lot of questions now. You know, I was listening to some commentary. I think it was a podcast or something. I was listening to some commentary about Russia and Ukraine and all this money that's going to Ukraine and the fact that Ukraine is, you know, a little finicky. Where's the money actually going? Like, that's the thing. I don't agree with sending U.S. funds over to any other country. It doesn't even matter what country. It doesn't matter if there's war or anything. We have needs for those resources here. If we have a single homeless veteran that's living on the street, that money shouldn't go anywhere else. It should go to our veterans and things like that, the people that fight for our freedom. You know, very simple things, right? You know, securing our own border. Why are we sending money to another country to secure theirs when we don't secure ours? You know, that's stuff like that. But we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with all that. I thought it was pretty important just to talk about that. I know, oh God, what's his name? The DA from Los Angeles. I forgot what I forgot. It begins with a G. Gascon. Yeah, there it is. He's holding a press conference at 6 o'clock Eastern time to go over. To be honest, I don't even know what he's going to try to do. There were two officers in El Centro, I think, the two police officers that were murdered by someone that Gascon, apparently his lax lawmaking there has allowed this man to get out of jail and commit crimes. And he committed a crime by killing two police officers before. I believe he was killed by police. So Gascon's taken a lot of criticism, rightfully so, for this. I mean, they're literally gang members that are tattooing Gascon's name on their body because they just love this guy so much and his lax on law policies, which is just, it's crazy when you really think about it. It's absolutely insane. Like, no matter who you are, that shit's crazy. And so he's holding a press conference. We're probably not going to cover it, to be completely honest, unless it's like super, good. Like, unless reporters are saying their deaths are on you, like, which is what should be happening in Uvalde. Here, I'll give a little recap about Uvalde before we get into this January 6th commission. Today was different. We watched the director of Texas DPS give a very long testimony in front of Texas senators, and he was talking about, he basically gave a whole timeline of what led up to the shooting, why, police taking so long. He didn't have answers for the fact. He basically said, here's a couple of things we know now. One, they had long guns in there within a couple of minutes of the shooting being started. Several police officers challenged the fact that Chief Arundo with the Uvalde Independent School District Police Department was in command and not allowing anyone to go in while gunshots were still going off. Police officers did not fire at the suspect until they breached and killed him an hour and a half after the shooting started. Police officers never checked to see whether the door to the classroom was locked, which apparently it wasn't, which apparently means that these officers could have funneled in there, stacked in there, and taken this guy out, or this kid out, long before, potentially saving dozens of lives. We don't know because, well, they didn't do it. They sat there cowering in a hallway and did absolutely nothing, saying that they only had pistols. They needed ballistic shields. They needed all this. And then now video is surfaced showing that they did have it, showing that they did have ballistic shields, showing that they did have long guns, and yet they still didn't do anything. We also learned that one of the police officers, his wife was a teacher who was shot and killed. He attempted to get into the room, or he attempted to go in, and he was disarmed by other police officers and not allowed to go try to save his wife, which there's no way in hell anybody would ever be able. They literally took his weapon inside the school to stop him from going to try to save his wife. We did also confirm, because there was a lot of reporting that if parents were not placed in handcuffs, we know now, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety's director, the highest in charge of the Texas Department of Public Safety, who confirmed that they did place one parent in handcuffs and did have to go hands-on with several parents who wanted to make entry into the school because the police were not doing anything. So it's absolutely nutty. It's absolutely nutty that virtually every single security mechanism in that school. And here's the crazy thing. I said it to my wife about the school door, because here's the thing that's even crazier about the Uvalde shooting is the door apparently doesn't lock from the inside. And the fact that this kid went in the classroom, door was closed, came out of the classroom, shot at the police officers, went back into the classroom. And the fact that nobody even checked the door to see if it was locked or not is absolutely crazy. But apparently they were saying that this door was faulty and could not be locked. And that that the teacher, that apparently whose classroom that teacher actually submitted repair requests to the school district to fix the door because it was a concern. The outside door was also malfunctioning, apparently, where the door was closed and it should have locked. And this is a thing that didn't make sense to me. They said the outside door had to be locked from the outside. You could not lock it from the inside. The door had to be locked from the outside, which didn't. So when the teacher that was outside, when she slammed the door, which originally they said she left it open, that was misinformation. The one teacher slammed that door shut, thought it was locked, but apparently it wasn't locked because the door, for some reason, had to be locked from the outside, which makes very little sense if you're talking about it. We also learned, which is what we learned early on, is that the first Texas Department of Public, or the Texas Uvalde Independent School District police officer who responded to the scene, who was first on scene, he actually drove right by the shooter as he's shooting into the school district classrooms, and instead went and talked to a teacher, announced that he had the suspect in his vision, that he has eyes on the suspect, except that wasn't a suspect, that was the teacher who was slamming the door. So the officer, and this is the thing that doesn't make sense. If that teacher was slamming the door and the officer was there, and then just a short time later, the shooter went in, same door, where was that police officer? That's another thing that isn't making a lot of sense. The Texas director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, he did a really good job breaking it down. He did say that their policies and procedures were not followed. And then everything kind of turned to politics towards the end of the conversation, just like they always do. A lot, you could tell which one was a Democrat because they were talking about, do you think 18-year-olds should be able to have guns? And he's like, well, I have guns, and I had guns as a kid. And then when people say, well, veterans should be outside of schools protecting it to volunteer, they tried to ask him if he thought that was a good idea. And you could tell they were trying to say, he's going to say it's not a good idea. And he's like, well, when I retire, I will be the first to sign up for that program if that program is created. And everyone kind of went like, oh, like that didn't work. And then towards the end, it really became a lot about policies and procedures and laws and ways to prevent in my opinion, the entire conversation should have been, how did this happen and who is going to be held accountable? That's my firm belief, is that this Chief Arundo, the guy that was incident command, that was a coward hiding behind a wall, there is no reason whatsoever that man should not be in custody right now. No reason whatsoever. His ineptitude as a police officer, his ineptitude as a leader, directly led to the deaths of children and teachers, 100%. And I don't know how other officers didn't literally beat the bricks off of that dude. I love saying beat the bricks, man. Beat the bricks. But yeah, so we're going to show this select committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, quotation, I forgot to do it, the select committee to investigate the attack at the Capitol. Because let's make no mistake, here's a little disclaimer, it was a riot. The people that breached the Capitol, that climbed through broken windows, that fought with police officers, they're all criminals. They are the scum. Like, when you mow your lawn and you task your kids to pick up all the dog shit outside and they don't do a good job and you step in it, that is what these rioters are to me. They are the piece of the shit that I step in when I mow my lawn. The people that actually committed crimes to break in. I'm not talking about the people that stood up on the steps of the Capitol and were protesting. I'm not talking about the people that were guided in by police officers. I'm talking about the criminals, the ones that attacked the police, the ones that attacked the building, smashed windows, climbed through broken windows to enter in, said they were going to hang Mike Pence, all the same shit. Those people are criminals and they're not patriots, and make no mistake about it. But with that said, this committee is a sham because they don't actually want to find out what led up to January 6th. The only thing they care about is impeaching, again, for the third time, Donald Trump. And in this regard, they're just trying to stop him from running in 2024 and attacking everybody else. Attacking all of his supporters. We heard that last time on Thursday where they said all of Donald Trump's supporters should be considered a threat to the United States. That's what that one federal judge, ex-federal judge, who quit his federal judgeship and then went and became the chief legal officer for Boeing. He went from $175,000 a year to $2.5 million a year for one of the nation's largest government contractors. Nothing to look at there, but who cares? Like, those are facts that nobody likes. I've kind of changed the motto to the show. You may see it in the descriptor of the video because it said, I forgot what it says. What's it say? Citizen Stringer was created simply because no one else will tell you the truth, so we will. I mean, is that not as blunt as possible? Because that is the truth. That is what we do. We will tell you the truth. You may not like it. You may be like, whoa, he's attacking patriots. I don't care. If you attack our country, you're not a patriot. You can pretend like you are and all that stuff. I don't give two shits. Okay? I've decided, I was talking to my wife about it this morning, or last night actually, because she has our living room now set up. It's a problem with women, right? Because you buy them a house, right? You set up, you paint the house, the colors that they choose, the floor, the color that they choose, and everything. They're super happy. And you think you'll just be able to pick the layout of your living room so that you could be comfortable, right? Because that's a room you spend the most time in, right? But you're wrong because you don't get to. And instead, your wife wants to put the love seat directly across from the couch so there's only a foot to move in between the coffee table. And I figured out why this morning, right? Because I'm sitting there drinking my coffee trying to watch the news, and she sits down directly across from me and decides to have a full-on fucking conversation at 5:30 in the goddamn morning. Anyway, I just went on a tangent. Good thing she doesn't watch this show. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to show the January 6th hearing and go from there. And you'll see me in the picture for a little bit and then I'll disappear and do stuff because I am working around the office, but I'm going to be listening. And I think it's important for us to cover it. Okay. As much as we all know it's all bullshit, it's important for us to cover the January 6th commission. I thought it was more important to show what was happening at the Uvalde hearing earlier, which is why we showed that all day. Just as a reminder for anyone watching on citizenstringer.com or citizenstringer.tv, this show is going to be interrupted at 6:00. So I know it sucks, but Pete Santilli has his show contractual. He runs his show from 6 to 9. That's what time he's going to be on. You can watch this entire show again shortly after 9:00 as soon as I upload it, because it's not going to record it. So as soon as I upload it, which will be immediately following the show, you'll be able to watch it on Citizen Stringer in its entirety, or just go over to one of the social media platforms where it is there. Also, there will be no live show. Maybe I'll do one on the road. It all depends. They fixed the RV, so now I can hook up to the trailer. I'm picking up the RV at 12 o'clock tomorrow. I'm going to go. I have to shuttle ship from here because I can't get the RV with the trailer. The motorhome. It's not an RV. It's a motorhome. I can't get the motorhome with the trailer because I'm like a semi, so I won't be able to get it back here. So I have to take the motorhome to the house, right? And then do shuttle runs for all the coffee and all that. And it's going to be fun. So depending on what time I leave tomorrow to Illinois, I may do a show from the road. It may be an audio only show, or depending on which way. Because if I go through West Virginia, there's hills, no service. Even with the live view, I'm not going to get anywhere. But if I drive up and then take 70 across and start going. But anyway, I'll be in Mendon, Illinois on Saturday. Actually, I'll be there Friday night as well. I know they're going to make us move the RVs and stuff. So I'll be in like the camping area, the RV area. So if you got an RV and you're going to be near Mendon, Illinois, come on and hang out with me. I'll be out there for the Trump rally. We'll do a live broadcast from there as long as the internet works and all that stuff. I am going to probably cut the live feed at some point and try to catch some interviews and do certain things at that rally. We're gonna have coffee for sale. We're gonna be giving out 1,000 cups of coffee for free. So come if you like free coffee, come and get a free coffee. And the only thing you got to do, the only thing I'm gonna ask you is scan that little QR code there and show Spartan Armor some love by visiting their site and checking out all the cool shit they have. But yeah, we'll have coffee, we'll have some collectible mugs, all that stuff. But come out there, say hi to me if you're gonna be out there. Anyway, let's cover this January 6th bullshit and watch this. And just full disclosure, guys, I understand this is gonna be hard to watch. Hold on. This one? I understand it's going to be, yeah, there we go. I understand it's going to be hard to watch because, fucking everything's actually working today. It's pretty good. I understand this may be difficult to watch for many of you because Adam Schiff is the main one, Shitty Schiff. He's the main one that's going to be leading this. So we'll all do our best to hide I will try very hard, like if I'm going to puke, to so you couldn't hear me there because I muted my mic. Hopefully that worked. So as I'm puking, I like that, and then you don't even hear it. And it should be good. It should be good. But let's check this shit out. Let me fast it forward.
Of American democracy.
And
as we
I'm not going to talk through the whole thing.
It's important to remember, when we count the votes for president, we count the votes state by state.
I'm going to talk through a lot, though.
For the most part, the candidates who win the popular vote in a state wins all the state's electoral college votes. And whoever wins a majority of the electoral college votes wins the presidency. So when Donald Trump tried to overturn the election results, he focused on just a few states. He wanted officials at the local and state level to say the vote was tainted by widespread fraud and throw out the results, even though, as we showed last week, there wasn't any voter fraud that could have overturned the election results. And like Mike Pence, these public servants wouldn't go along with Donald Trump's scheme. And when they wouldn't embrace the big lie and substitute the will of the voters with Donald Trump's will to remain in power, Donald Trump worked to ensure they faced the consequences. Threats to people's livelihood and lives. Threats of violence that Donald Trump knew about and amplified. And in our other hearings, we can't just look backward at what happened in late 2020 and in the early 2021 because the danger hadn't gone away. Our democracy endured a mighty test on January 6th and in the days before. We say our institutions held. But what does that really mean? Democratic institutions aren't abstractions or ideas. They are local officials who oversee elections, secretaries of state.
Now, I know people would rather listen to me, okay, because I'm fucking awesome. So I know people would rather listen to me, but I think this is important, okay? You can't get rid of our history, even if it's fake and completely fucking made up. Okay, which is why I'm showing this. I'm here listening with all of you. I know I see a bunch of people, I can't watch this, I'm out. 50 viewers have already quit. People are like, I'd rather listen to Steve. I'd rather listen to me too. But unfortunately, I think that this is something that everybody needs to watch just to understand how totally batshit crazy this world has become.
He'll refuse, saying his vote, quote, isn't based on any evidence. It's not based on any facts. It's only based on my gut feeling and my own intuition, and that's all I need. By the way, a few months ago, this county commissioner was found guilty of illegally entering the Capitol grounds on January 6th. This story reminds us of a few things. First, as we've shown in our previous hearings, claims that widespread voter fraud tainted the 2020 presidential election.
See, this is the beauty of not watching it live. We can skip.
Review of it.
All right, hold on. I went too far.
Former attorney by our Department of
Statement she'd care to offer.
All right, listen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Today, we will begin examining President Trump's efforts to overturn the election by exerting pressure on state officials and state legislatures.
Her voice is like...
Donald Trump had a direct and personal
voice is
role in
awful.
this effort, as did Rudy Giuliani, as did John Eastman. In other words, the same people who were attempting to pressure Vice President Mike Pence to reject...
Yeah, I've gotten off an idea. If I make $5,000 tonight in super chats and all that, I will turn this off.
These efforts to overturn the election is independently serious. Each deserves attention both by Congress and by our Department of Justice.
Shut up.
But as a federal court has already indicated, these efforts were also part of a broader plan. And all of this was done in preparation for January 6th. I would note 2 points for particular focus today. First, come on, man. Today you will hear about calls made by President Trump to officials of Georgia and other states. As you listen to these tapes, keep in mind what Donald Trump already knew at the time he was making those calls.
Let's go, Brandon.
He told over and over again that his stolen election allegations were nonsense. For example, this is what former Attorney General Bill Barr said to President Trump about allegations in Georgia.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Took a hard look at this ourselves, and based on our review of it, including the interviews of the key witnesses, the Fulton County allegations had no merit. The ballots under the table were legitimate ballots. They weren't in a suitcase. They had been pre-opened for eventually feeding into the machine. All the stuff about the water leak and that there was some subterfuge involved. We felt there was some confusion, but there was no evidence of a subterfuge to create an opportunity to feed things into the count. And so we didn't see any evidence of fraud in the Fulton County episode.
And Acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue told Donald Trump this.
If it holds near and dear to you that
I said something to the effect of, sir, we've done dozens of investigations, hundreds of interviews. The major allegations are not supported by the evidence developed.
Come on, man.
Mr. Trump was told by his own advisors that he had no basis for his stolen election claims. Yet he continued to pressure state officials to change the election results. Second, you will hear about a number of threats and efforts to pressure state officials to reverse the election outcome. One of our witnesses today, Gabriel Sterling, explicitly warned President Trump about potential violence on December 1st, 2020, more than a month before January 6th. You will see excerpts from that video repeatedly today.
1.2 billion.
It has all gone too far. All of it. Joe DeGenova today asked for Chris Krebs, a patriot who ran CISA, to be shot. A 20-something tech in Gwinnett County today has death threats and a noose put out saying he should be hung for treason because he was transferring a report on batches from an EMS to a county computer so he could read it. It has to stop.
It has to
Mr. President, you have not condemned these actions or this language. Senators, you have not condemned this language or these actions.
I think Adam was there that day.
Stop.
I think Adam was at this press conference.
Take a position of leadership. Show some.
Show some.
My boss, Secretary Raffensberger, his address is out there. They have people doing caravans in front of their house. They've had people come onto their property.
Oh, like our Supreme Court justices.
Stop.
Oh, I got you.
This is elections. This is the backbone of democracy. And all of you who have not said a damn word are complicit in this.
The point is this. Donald Trump did not care about the threats of violence. He did not condemn them. He made no effort to stop them. He went forward with his fake allegations anyway. One more point. I would urge all of those watching today to focus on the evidence the committee will present.
What evidence?
Don't be distracted by politics. This is serious. We cannot let America become a nation of conspiracy theories.
They said, this bitch, she just said, don't be distracted by politics. This is political. This is a political witch hunt. We haven't heard why there wasn't enough Capitol Police officers there. We haven't heard why there were hit squads roaming around with protesters. We haven't heard from any of the undercover FBI agents that were on the ground that day. We still don't know who provided the Proud Boys with the mythical 1776 report or revival document, who was an FBI agent, and who was the Proud Boy that snitched on everybody else. Come on, guys. Come on. You're telling me that the two people that organized the ground attack, Enrique Tarrio, a known FBI confidential informant, and Stuart Rhodes, a known confidential informant for the federal government, according to my sources, you're telling me that their handlers didn't know that this was going on? This was allowed to happen because it benefited Democrats. It didn't benefit Donald Trump to stop and to fuck.
He sought to stop the counting of the vote, knowing that the millions of absentee ballots elections officials would be counting on election day.
I don't know if I'm going to make it through this whole fucking show.
Would run strongly against him and deliver a victory to Joe Biden. Next, and when he could not stop the counting, he tried to stop state legislatures and governors from certifying the results of the election. He went to court and filed dozens of frivolous lawsuits, making unsubstantiated claims of fraud. When that too failed, he mounted a pressure campaign directed at individual state legislators to try to get them to go back into session and either declare him the winner, decertify Joe Biden as the winner, or send two slates of electors to Congress, one for Biden and one for him, and pressure Vice President Pence to choose him as the winner. But the state legislatures wouldn't go along with this scheme, and neither would the vice president. None of the legislatures agreed to go back into special session and declare him the winner. No legitimate state authority in the states Donald Trump lost would agree to appoint fake Trump electors and send them to Congress. But this didn't stop the Trump campaign either. They assembled groups of individuals in key battleground states and got them to call themselves electors, created phony certificates associated with these fake electors, and then transmitted these certificates to Washington and to the Congress to be counted during the joint session of Congress on January 6th. None of this worked. But according to Federal District Judge David Carter, former President Trump and others likely violated multiple federal laws by engaging in this scheme, including conspiracy to defraud the United States. You will hear evidence of the former president and his top advisors' direct involvement in key elements of this plot, or what Judge Carter called a coup in search of a legal theory. For as the judge explained, President Trump's pressure campaign to stop the electoral count did not end with Vice President Pence. It targeted every tier of federal and state elected officials. Convincing state legislatures, he said, to certify competing electors was essential to stop the count and ensure President Trump's reelection. As we have seen in our prior hearings, running through this scheme was a big lie that the election was plagued with massive fraud and somehow stolen. You'll remember what the president's own Attorney General, Bill Barr, said he told the president about these claims of massive fraud affecting the outcome of the election.
And I told him that the stuff that his people were shoveling out to the public was bullshit. I mean, that the claims of fraud were bullshit.
The president's lie was and is a dangerous cancer on the body politic. If you can convince Americans that they cannot trust their own elections, that any time they lose it is somehow illegitimate, then what is left but violence to determine who should govern? This brings us to the focus of today's hearing. When state elections officials refused to stop the count, Donald Trump and his campaign tried to put pressure on them. When state executive officials refused to certify him the winner of states he lost, he applied more pressure. When state legislators refused to go back into session and appoint Trump electors, he amped up the pressure yet again. Anyone who got in the way of Donald Trump's continued hold on power after he lost the election was the subject of a dangerous and escalating campaign of pressure. This pressure campaign brought angry phone calls and texts, armed protests, intimidation, and all too often, threats of violence and death. State legislators were singled out. So too were statewide elections officials. Even local elections workers, diligently doing their jobs, were accused of being criminals and had their lives turned upside down. As we will show, the president's supporters heard the former president's claims of fraud and the false allegations he made against state and local officials as a call to action.
Stop the steal! Stop the steal! Stop the steal!
You know what's really annoying to me is I watched this part earlier, and they show this video a couple of times and they got it all blurred out. They're doing this at the Supreme Court right now. Are they condemning this action now because it's about the election, but they're allowing people to to have fake baby dolls covered in blood and protest outside Supreme Court justices? Because that is a crime. What they're doing outside of this lady's house is not a crime. Those are what you call facts, people. That's why you're watching this. And just in case you didn't know.
And then it's just, we don't know what's going to, I mean, the uncertainty of that was what was the fear. Like, are they coming with guns? Are they going to attack my house? I'm in here with my kid, I'm trying to put him to bed. And so it was, that was the scariest moment, just not knowing what was going to happen.
This pressure campaign against state and local officials spanned numerous contested states, as you will see in this video produced by the Select Committee.
My name is Josh Roselman. I'm an investigative counsel for the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. Beginning in late November 2020,
I stopped myself. I had something to say, but I didn't do it.
To Trump,
I was a good boy.
Popular vote.
I represent President Trump along with Jenna Ellis, and this is our fourth or fifth hearing.
This election has to be turned around because we won Pennsylvania by a lot, and we won all of these swing states by a lot.
This was a strategy with both practical and legal elements. The Select Committee has obtained an email from just 2 days after the election in which a Trump campaign lawyer named Cleta Mitchell asked another Trump lawyer, John Eastman, to write a memo justifying the idea.
When do you remember this coming up as an option in the post-election period for the first time?
Right after the election. It might have been before the election.
Eastman prepared a memo attempting to justify this strategy, which was circulated to the Trump White House, Rudy Giuliani's legal team, and state legislators around the country. And he appeared before the Georgia State Legislature to advocate for it publicly.
You could also do what the Florida legislature was prepared to do, which is to adopt a slate of electors yourself. And when you add in the mix of the significant statistical anomalies and sworn affidavits and video evidence of outright election fraud, I don't think it's just your authority to do that, but quite frankly, I think you have a duty to do that, to protect the integrity of the election here in Georgia.
But Republican officials in several states released public statements recognizing that President Trump's proposal was unlawful. For instance, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp called the proposal unconstitutional, while Arizona House Speaker Rusty Bowers wrote that the idea would undermine the rule of law. The pressure campaign to get state legislators to go along with the scheme intensified when President Trump invited delegations from Michigan and Pennsylvania to the White House.
Either you or Speaker Chatfield, did you make the point to the president that you were not going to do anything that violated Michigan law?
I believe we did. Whether or not it was those exact words or not, but I think that the words that I would have more likely used is we were going to follow the law.
Nevertheless, the pressure continued. The next day, President Trump tweeted, quote, "Hopefully the courts and/or legislatures will have the courage to do what has to be done to maintain the integrity of our elections and the United States of America itself. The world is watching." He posted multiple messages on Facebook listing the contact information for state officials and urging his supporters to contact them to, quote, "demand a vote on decertification." In one of those posts, President Trump disclosed Mike Shirkey's personal phone number to his millions of followers.
All I remember is receiving over just shy of 4,000 text messages over a short period of time, calling to take action. It was a loud noise, loud, consistent cadence of, we hear that the Trump folks are calling and asking for changes in the electors, and you guys can do this. Well, they were believing things that were untrue.
These efforts also involved targeted outreach to state legislators.
Hi, Representative. My name is Angela McCallum. I'm calling from Trump campaign headquarters in Washington, D.C. You do have the power to reclaim your authority and send a slate of electors that will support President Trump and Vice President Pence.
From President Trump's lawyers and from Trump himself.
And I've become friendly with legislators that I didn't know 4 weeks ago.
Another legislator, Pennsylvania House Speaker Brian Cutler, received daily voicemails from Trump's lawyers in the last week of November.
Mr. Speaker, this is Rudy Giuliani and Jenna Ellis. We're calling you together because we'd like to discuss, obviously, the election.
Hello, Mr. Speaker. This is Jenna Ellis, and I'm here with Mayor Giuliani.
Hey, Brian, it's Rudy. I really have something important to call to your attention that I think really changes things.
Cutler felt that the outreach was inappropriate and asked his lawyers to tell Rudy Giuliani to stop calling, but Giuliani continued to reach out.
I understand that you don't want to talk to me now. I just want to bring some facts to your attention and talk to you as a fellow Republican.
On December 30th, Trump ally Steve Bannon announced a protest at Cutler's home.
We're getting on the road and we're going down to Cutler. We're going to start going to offices, and if we have to, we're going to go to homes and we're going to let them know what we think about them.
There were multiple protests. I actually don't remember the exact number. There was at least 3, I think. Outside either my district office or my home. And you're correct, my then 15-year-old son was home by himself for the first one. All of my personal information was doxed online. It was my personal email, my personal cell phone, my home phone number. In fact, we had to disconnect our home phone for about 3 days because it would ring all hours of the night and would fill up with messages.
Brian Cutler, we're outside.
Clerks facing felony charges in Michigan. Poll watchers denied access in Pennsylvania.
These ads were another element in the effort. The Trump campaign spent millions of dollars running ads online and on television.
The evidence is overwhelming. Call your governor and legislators. Demand they inspect the machines and hear the evidence.
Public pressure on state officials often grew dangerous in the lead up to January 6th.
Let us in! Let us in! Let us in! Let us in! Special session! Special session! Special session!
We'll light the whole set on fire.
What are we going to do? What can you and I do to a state legislator besides kill him? Although we should not do that. I'm not advising that, but I mean, what else can you do, right?
The punishment for treason is death.
The state pressure campaign and the danger it posed to state officials and to state capitals around the nation was a dangerous precursor to the violence we saw on January 6th at the U.S. Capitol. Today you will hear from Rusty Bowers, the Republican Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives. He will tell us about his conversations with the President, with Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman, and what the President's team asked of him and how his oath of office would not permit it. You will then hear from Brad Raffensberger, the Republican Secretary of State of Georgia, who Trump directed to, quote, find 11,780 votes that did not exist, but just the exact number of votes needed to overtake Joe Biden. You will also hear from Gabriel Sterling, the chief operating officer, his chief operating officer, about the spurious claims of fraud in the elections in Georgia, and who, responding to a cascading set of threats to his elections team, warned the president to stop, that someone was going to get killed. And you will hear from Wandrea Shea Moss, a former local elections worker in Fulton County, Georgia, about how all of the lies about the election impacted the lives of real people who administer our elections and still do. You will hear what they experienced when the most powerful man in the world, the President of the United States, sought to cling to power after being voted out of office by the American people. The system held, but barely. And the system held because people of courage, Republicans and Democrats, like the witnesses you will hear today, put their oath to the country and Constitution above any other consideration. They did their jobs, as we must do ours. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
I now welcome our first panel of witnesses. We're joined today by a distinguished legislator from Arizona, Rusty Bowers, who's a Republican Speaker of the Arizona House of Representatives. Mr. Bowers was first elected to the state legislature in 1993 and has served as Speaker since 2019. Welcome, Speaker Bowers. Brad Raffensberger is the 29th Secretary of State of Georgia, serving in this role since 2019. As an elected official and a Republican, Secretary Raffensberger is responsible for supervising elections in Georgia and maintaining the state's public records. Welcome, Mr. Secretary. Gabriel Sterling is the Chief Operating Officer in the Georgia Secretary of State's office. Mr. Sterling was the statewide voting systems implementation manager for the 2020 election in Georgia, responsible for leading the Secretary of State's response to the COVID pandemic and rolling out modernized voting equipment. I will swear in our witnesses. The witnesses will please stand and raise their right hand. Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witnesses answered in the affirmative. Speaker Bowers, thank you for being with us today. You're the Speaker of the Arizona House and a self-described conservative Republican. You campaigned for President Trump and with him during the 2020 election. Is it fair to say that you wanted Donald Trump to win a second term in office? Please.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And is it your understanding that President Biden was the winner of the popular vote in Arizona in 2020?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5C8 of House Resolution 503, the chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff, for questions.
Speaker Bowers, thank you for being with us today. Before we begin with the questions that I had prepared for you, I wanted to ask you about a statement that former President Trump issued, which I received just prior to the hearing. Have you had a chance to review that statement?
My counsel called from Arizona and read it to me. Yes, sir.
In that statement, I won't read it in its entirety. Former President Trump begins by calling you a rhino, Republican in name only. He then references a conversation in November 2020 in which he claims that you told him that the election was rigged and that he had won Arizona. To quote the former president, during the conversation, he told me the election was rigged and that I won Arizona, unquote. Did you have such a conversation with the president?
I did have a conversation with the president. That certainly isn't it, but there were parts of it that are true, but there are parts that are not, sir.
And the part that I read you, is that false?
Anywhere, anyone, anytime has said that I said the election was rigged, that would not be true.
And when the former president in his statement today claimed that you told him that he won Arizona, is that also false?
That is also false.
Mr. Bowers, I understand that after the election, and I don't know whether this is the conversation the former president is referring to, but after the election, you received a phone call from President Trump and Rudy Giuliani in which they discussed the result of the presidential election in Arizona. If you would, tell us about that call and whether the former president or Mr. Giuliani raised allegations of election fraud.
Thank you. My wife and I had returned from attending our church meetings. It was on a Sunday, and we were still in the driveway, and I had received a call from a colleague telling me that the White House was trying to get in touch with her and I, and that she said, please, if you get a call, let's try to take this together. Immediately, I saw that the White House on my Bluetooth was calling, and I took the call and was asked by I would presume the operator at the White House if I would hold for the president, which I did, and Mr. Giuliani came on first, and niceties, then Mr. Trump, President Trump, then President Trump came on, and we initiated a conversation.
During that conversation, did you ask Mr. Giuliani for proof of these allegations of fraud that he was making?
On multiple occasions, yes.
And when you asked him for evidence of this fraud, what did he say?
He said that they did have proof, and I asked him, do you have names? For example, we have 200,000 illegal immigrants, some large number, 5,000 or 6,000 dead people, etc. And I said, do you have their names? Yes. Will you give them to me? Yes. The president interrupted and said, give the man what he needs, Rudy. He said, I will. And that happened on at least 2 occasions, that interchange in the conversation.
So Mr. Giuliani was claiming in the call that there were hundreds of thousands of undocumented people and thousands of dead people who had purportedly voted in the election?
Yes.
And you asked him for evidence of that?
I did.
And did you ever receive from him that evidence either during the call, after the call, or to this day?
Never.
What was the ask during this call? He was making these allegations of fraud, but he had something or a couple things that they wanted you to do. What were those?
The ones I remember were first that we would hold, that I would allow an official committee at the Capitol so that they could hear this evidence and that we could take action thereafter. And I refused. I said, up to that time, the circus, I called it a circus, had been brewing with lots of demonstrations, both at the counting center, at the Capitol, and other places. And I didn't want to have that in the House. I did not feel that the evidence, granted in its absence, merited a hearing, and I didn't want to be used as a pawn if there was some other need that the committee hearing would fulfill. So that was the first ask, that we hold an official committee hearing.
And what was his second ask?
I said, to what end? To what end the hearing? He said, well, we have heard by an official high up in the Republican legislature that there is a legal theory or a legal ability in Arizona that you can remove the electors of President Biden and replace them. And we would like to have the legitimate opportunity through the committee to come to that end and remove that. And I said, that's something that's totally new to me. I've never heard of any such thing. And he pressed that point. And I said, look, you are asking me to do something that is counter to my oath when I swore to the Constitution to uphold it. And I also swore to the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona. And this is totally foreign as an idea or a theory to me. And I would never do anything of such magnitude without deep consultation with qualified attorneys. And I said, I've got some good attorneys, and I'm going to give you their names. But you are asking me to do something against my oath, and I will not break my oath. And I think that was up to that point.
During the conversation...
Just a quick reminder for everybody that's watching on citizenstringer.tv and listening on Citizen Stringer Radio, it's going to cut off because Pizza and Tilly's show is going to start here at 6 o'clock in less than 1 minute. On social media, we'll just keep on keeping on. So you're welcome to watch there or, do this. I'm bored. I'm actually like my mind is wandering. So I'm like, listen, if the person who I voted for today doesn't win the primary here for Congress, can I run a successful write-in campaign for Congress? I'm not doing it. I like to dig down these rabbit holes.
And you heard, I think, when we played a snippet of Mr. Giuliani calling other state legislators and saying that he was calling us essentially a fellow Republican. Did he make a similar appeal to you or bring up the fact that you shared a similar party?
Whether it was in that call or in a later meeting, he did bring that up more than once.
And how would he bring that up?
He would say, aren't we all Republicans here? I would think we would get a better reception. I mean, I would think you would listen a little more open to my suggestions that we're all Republicans.
And this evidence that you asked him for that would justify this extraordinary step, I think you said they never produced. Why did you feel, either in the absence of that evidence or with it, what they were asking you to do would violate your oath to the Constitution?
First of all, when the people, and in Arizona, I believe it's some 40 plus years earlier, the legislature had established the manner of electing our officials, or the electors for the presidential race. Once it was given to the people, as in Bush v. Gore, illustrated by the Supreme Court, it becomes a fundamental right of the people. So as far as I was concerned, for someone to ask me I would call it a paucity, there was no evidence being presented of any strength. Evidence can be hearsay evidence, it's still evidence, but it's still hearsay. But strong judicial quality evidence, anything that would say to me, you have a doubt, deny your oath. I will not do that. And on more than one occasion throughout all this, that has been brought up, and it is a tenet of my faith that the Constitution is divinely inspired of my most basic foundational beliefs. And so for me to do that because somebody just asked me to is foreign to my very being. I will not do it.
During that conversation, Speaker Bowers, did you ask him if what he was proposing had ever been done before?
I did.
And what did he say?
He said, well, I'm not familiar with Arizona law or any other laws, but I don't think so. And that also was brought up in other conversations, both with him and with John Eastman and others.
Speaker Bowers, I understand that a week after that call, Mr. Giuliani appeared with others associated with President Trump's effort to overturn the result of the election at a purported legislative hearing in a hotel ballroom in Phoenix. Was this an official hearing of the state legislature?
It was not.
And why was it not a real or official hearing of the legislature?
A legislator can hold a group meeting, he can call it a hearing, but when they ask me to have an official hearing, we establish it by protocols, public notice, etc. It's typically held at the Capitol, but it doesn't need to be. We can authorize a hearing off campus. And in this case, I had been asked on several occasions to allow a hearing. I had denied it, but said, you're free to hold a meeting, any meeting you want, to the person who asked, and which he ultimately did. I think he was a little frustrated, but he ultimately did.
This meeting was the same day, I believe, that the governor of Arizona, Doug Ducey, certified Biden as the winner of the presidential election in Arizona. Did you meet with Mr. Giuliani and his associates while they were in Phoenix sometime after that purported legislative hearing at the hotel?
Yes, I did, sir.
And at that meeting, did Mr. Giuliani raise any specific allegations of election fraud again?
His initial comments were, again, the litany of groups of illegal individuals or people deceased, etc. And he had brought that up, and I wasn't alone in that meeting. There were others, and other members of the Senate aggressively questioned him. And then I proceeded to question him on the proof that he was going to bring me, etc. But he did bring those up, yes.
And these other legislators were also Republican members of the Senate?
They were, yes, sir.
And did they also press him for proof of these allegations?
They pressed him very strongly. Two of them especially, very strongly.
And at some point, did Mr. Giuliani ask one of the other attorneys on his team to help him out with the evidence?
He did. He asked Jenna Ellis, who was sitting to his right. One thing was that it was more to the point of, was there sufficient evidence or action that we could justify the recalling of the electors? But at that part of the conversation, I know he referred to someone else. But he did ask, do we have the proof, to Jenna, Miss Ellis? And she said, yes. And I said, I want the names. Do you have the names? Yes. Do you have how they voted? We have all the information. I said, can you get to me that information? Did you bring it with you? She said, no. Both Mr. Giuliani asked her and I asked generally if they'd brought it with them. She said, no, it's not with me, but we can get it to you. And I said, then you didn't bring me the evidence, which was repeated in different iterations for some period of time.
At some point, did one of them make a comment that they didn't have evidence, but they had a lot of theories?
That was Mr. Giuliani.
And what exactly did he say, and how did that come up?
My recollection, he said, we've got lots of theories, we just don't have the evidence. And I don't know if that was a gaffe, or maybe he didn't think through what he said, but both myself and others in my group, the three in my group and my council, both remembered that specifically, and afterwards we kind of laughed about it.
And getting back to the ask in that phone call that preceded this meeting, he wanted you to have the legislature dismiss the Biden electors and replace them with Trump electors on the basis of these theories of fraud?
He did not say it in those exact words, but he did say that Arizona law, according to what he understood, that would be allowed, and that we needed to come into session to take care of that, which initiated a discussion about, again, what I can legally and not legally do, and I can't go into session in Arizona unilaterally or on my sole prerogative.
This meeting or at any other later time, did anyone provide you with evidence of election fraud sufficient to affect the outcome of the presidential election in Arizona?
No one provided me ever such evidence.
The Select Committee has uncovered evidence in the course of our investigation that at Stop the Steal protests at state capitals across the country, there were individuals with ties to the groups or parties involved in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. One of those incursions took place in the Arizona House of Representatives building, as you can see in this footage. This is previously undisclosed video of protesters illegally entering and refusing to leave the building. One of the individuals prominently shown in this video is Jacob Chansley. Perhaps better known as the QAnon shaman, this rioter entered the Capitol on January 6th, was photographed leaving a threatening note on the dais in the U.S. Senate chamber, and was ultimately sentenced to 41 months in prison after pleading guilty to obstruction of an official proceeding. Other protesters who occupied the Arizona House of Representatives building included Proud Boys, while men armed with rifles stood just outside the entrance. I understand these protesters were calling for you by name, Speaker Bowers. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Speaker Bowers, did the president call you again in later in December?
He did, sir.
Did you tell the president in that second call that you supported him, that you voted for him, but that you were not going to do anything illegal for him?
I did, sir.
Nevertheless, his lawyer, John Eastman, called you some days later on June 4th, 2021. And he did have a very specific ask that would have required you to do just what you had already told the president you wouldn't do, something that would violate your oath. Is that correct?
That's correct. It wasn't just me. I had my counsel and others on the call.
And what did Dr. Eastman want you to do?
That we would, in fact, take a vote to overthrow, or I shouldn't say overthrow, that we would decertify the electors, and that because we had plenary authority to do so. And he cited Article 2, Section 1, I think it's Clause 2, and said that in his opinion that gave us the authority if there was, I don't recall him saying sufficient evidence, but there was some call or some strong reason to do so or justification to do so that we could do that. And that he was asking that his suggestion was that we would do it. And I said, again, I took an oath. For me to take that, to do what you do would be counter to my oath. I don't recall if it was in that conversation, clearly, that we talked more about.
Hey, you guys want to hear something funny? So my wife right now, because I had to send her, because I'm here with you guys, right? And I need to get a bunch of creamers and shit for the event. So I asked her to go to Costco. So she's at Costco right now with two kids that are not being behaved at all. So I talked to them, and I was like, hey, be really good. And they're like, okay. And then I could hear them start right in on the phone. See, isn't that funny? Man, she does such a good job. She's like literally buying me shorts and sugar and creamer and 20 gallons of water at Costco right now.
I swore to uphold both in Constitution and in law. No, sir. He said, well, that's my suggestion would be just do it and let the courts figure it all out. And he didn't use that exact phrase, but that was what his meaning was. And I declined, and I believe that was close to the end of our phone call.
He's annoying.
And again, this took place after you had
Shifty Shift!
recently spoken with President Trump and told him that you wouldn't do anything illegal for him. Is that right?
It wasn't days after. Obviously, it was days after, but a few days had gone by.
But you had told President Trump you would not do anything illegal for him.
I did, both times.
And you told Dr. Eastman that you did not believe there was legal support to justify what he was asking, but he still wanted you to do it and effectively let the courts work it out?
I've been warned, don't say things you think, maybe he said, but I do remember him saying that the authority of the legislature was plenary and that you can do it. I said, then you should know that I can't even call the legislature into session without a 2/3 majority vote. We're only 30 plus one. There's no way that could happen.
But in your view, what he was asking you to do would have violated your oath to the Constitution, both the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Arizona.
Yes, sir.
Did you also receive a call from U.S. Representative Andy Biggs of Arizona on the morning of January 6th?
I did.
And what did Mr. Biggs ask you to do?
I believe that was the day that the vote was occurring to each state to have certification, or to declare the certification of the electors. And he asked if I would sign on both to a letter that had been sent from my state and or that I would support the decertification of the electors. And I said I would not.
Mr. Speaker, on December 4th, 2020, shortly after your meeting with Rudy Giuliani and other allies of President Trump, you released a statement publicly addressing, quote, calls for the legislature to overturn the 2020 certified election results. The statement is very straightforward in explaining the, quote, breathtaking request, unquote, made by representatives of President Trump. Quote, that the Arizona legislature overturn the certified results of last month's election and deliver the state's electoral college votes to President Trump, unquote. Why did you believe, as you wrote in this statement, that the rule of law forbid you from doing what President Trump and his allies wanted you to do?
Representative, I'm sorry, I should be saying, Mr. Chairman, Representative Schiff, there's two sides to the answer. One is, what am I allowed to do?
What?
What am I forbidden
What am I allowed to do? What?
We have
This guy's
no
a joke. He's a joke.
pathway, both in state law nor to my knowledge in federal law, for us to execute such a request. And I am not allowed to walk or act beyond my authority. If I'm not specifically authorized as a legislator, as a legislature, then I cannot act to the point of calling us into session. Some say that just a few legislators have plenary authority. And that has come as part of all of this discussion, I'll call it. But so to not have authority and be forbidden to act beyond my authority on both counts, I am not authorized to take such action, and that would deny my oath.
In your statement, you included excerpts from President Ronald Reagan's inaugural address in 1981. The newly inaugurated president told the country, quote, the orderly transfer of authority as called for in the Constitution routinely takes place as it has for almost 2 centuries, and few of us stop to think how unique we really are. In the eyes of many in the world, this every 4-year ceremony we accept as normal is nothing less than a miracle. Tell us, if you would, Mr. Speaker, why did you include President Reagan's words in your public statement?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Schiff, because I have a lot of admiration for Ronald Reagan. I've had the opportunity of going through his home with one other person and walking through, and I have a lot of admiration for him. When he pointed out, which is, I have lived in other country for a period of time and have visited a few countries, and during election times, the fact that we allow an election, support an election, and stand behind the election, even in the past when there have been serious questions about the election, and then move on without disturbance and with acceptance that we choose to follow the outcome of the will of the people. That will means a lot to me, and I know it meant a lot to him, and so we included that.
Thank you, Speaker Bowers. I now want to look even more deeply at the fake electors scheme. Every 4 years, citizens from all over the United States go to the polls to elect their president. Under our Constitution, when we cast our votes for president, we are actually voting to send electors pledged to our preferred candidate to the Electoral College. In December, the electors in each state meet, cast their votes, and send those votes to Washington. There is only one legitimate slate of electors from each state. On the 6th day of January, Congress meets in a joint session to count those votes, and the winner of the Electoral College vote becomes the president. In this next segment, you'll hear how President Trump and his campaign were directly involved in advancing and coordinating the plot to replace legitimate Biden electors with fake electors not chosen by the voters. You'll hear how this campaign convinced these fake electors to cast and submit their votes through fake certificates, telling them that their votes would only be used in the event that President Trump won his legal challenges. Yet when the president lost those legal challenges, when courts rejected them as frivolous and without merit, the fake elector scheme continued. At this point, President Trump's own lawyers, so-called Team Normal, walked away rather than participate in the plan. And his own White House counsel's office said that the plan was not legally sound. Let's play the following video produced by the Select Committee.
Come on, man. Give me a little break here. Come on, man.
I'm the investigative counsel for the House Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States.
Why the hell would I take a test?
On November 18th, a lawyer working with the Trump campaign named Kenneth Cheesebro
If
wrote a memo arguing that the Trump campaign should organize its own electors in the swing states that President Trump had lost. The Select Committee received testimony that those close to President Trump began planning to organize fake electors for Trump in states that Biden won in the weeks after the election.
Who do you remember being involved in those early discussions around the Thanksgiving time regarding having alternate electors meet?
Mr. Giuliani, several of Mr. Giuliani's associates, Mr. Meadows, members of Congress, although it's difficult to distinguish if the members that I'm thinking of were involved during Thanksgiving or if they were involved as we progressed through December.
At the president's direct request, the RNC assisted the campaign in coordinating this effort.
What did the president say when he called you?
Essentially, he turned the call over to Mr. Eastman, who then proceeded to talk about the importance of the RNC helping the campaign gather these contingent electors in case any of the legal challenges that were ongoing changed the result of any of the states. I think more just helping them reach out and assemble them. But my understanding is the campaign did take the lead, and we just were helping them in that role.
As President Trump and his supporters continued to lose lawsuits, some campaign lawyers became convinced that convening electors in states that Trump lost was no longer appropriate.
I just remember I either replied or called somebody saying, unless we have litigation pending that's like in these states, like I don't think this is appropriate, or this isn't the right thing to do. I don't remember how I phrased it, but I got into a little bit of a back and forth, and I think it was with Ken Cheesebro, where I said, all right, you just get after it. Like I'm out.
At that point, I had Josh Finley email Mr. Chesbro politely to say, this is your task. You are responsible for the Electoral College issues moving forward. And this was my way of taking that responsibility to zero.
The committee learned the White House counsel's office also felt the plan was potentially illegal.
And so to be clear, did you hear the White House counsel's office say that this plan to have alternate electors meet and cast votes for Donald Trump in states that he had lost was not legally sound?
Yes, sir.
And who was present for that meeting that you remember?
It was in our office. It was Mr. Meadows, Mr. Giuliani, and a few of Mr. Giuliani's associates.
The Select Committee interviewed several of the individual fake electors, as well as Trump campaign staff who helped organize the effort.
We were just, kind kind of useful idiots or rubes at that point. You know, a strong part of me really feels that it's just kind of as the road continued and as that was failure, that got formulated as what do we have on the table? Let's just do it.
And now, after what we've told you today about the Select Committee's investigation about the conclusion of the professional lawyers on the campaign staff, Justin Clark, Matt Morgan, and Josh Finley, about their unwillingness to participate in the convening of these electors, how does that contribute to your understanding of these issues?
I'm angry. Because I think in a sense, you know, no one really cared if people were potentially putting themselves in jeopardy.
Would you have not wanted to participate in this any further as well?
I absolutely would not have. Had I known that the three main lawyers for the campaign that I've spoken to in the past and were leading up were not on board. Yeah.
I was told that these would only count if a court ruled in our favor. So that would have been using our electors, it would have been using our electors in ways that we weren't told about, and we wouldn't have supported.
Documents obtained by the Select Committee indicate that instructions were given to the electors in several states that they needed to cast their ballots in complete secrecy. Because this scheme involved fake electors, those participating in certain states had no way to comply with state election laws, like where the electors were supposed to meet. One group of fake electors even considered hiding overnight to ensure that they could access the state capitol, as required in Michigan.
Did Mr. Norton say who he was working with at all on this effort to have electors meet?
He said he was working with the president's campaign. He told me that the Michigan Republican electors were planning to meet in the Capitol and hide overnight so that they could fulfill the role of casting their vote in per law in the Michigan chambers. And I told him in no uncertain terms that that was insane and inappropriate.
In one state, the fake electors even asked for a promise that the campaign would pay their legal fees if they got sued or charged with a crime. Ultimately, fake electors did meet on December 14th, 2020 in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Mexico, Nevada, and Wisconsin. At the request of the Trump campaign, the electors from these battleground states signed documents falsely asserting that they were the, quote, duly elected electors from their state, and submitted them to the National Archives and to Vice President Pence in his capacity as President of the Senate. Here is what some of the fake elector certificates look like as compared to the real ones. But these ballots had no legal effect. In an email produced to the Select Committee, Dr. Eastman told a Trump campaign representative that it did not matter that the electors had not been approved by a state authority. Quote, the fact that we have multiple slates of electors demonstrates the uncertainty of either. That should be enough. He urged that Pence act boldly and be challenged. Documents produced to the Select Committee show that the Trump campaign took steps to ensure that the physical copies of the fake electors' electoral votes from 2 states were delivered to Washington for January 6th. Text messages exchanged between Republican Party officials in Wisconsin show that on January 4th, the Trump campaign asked for someone to fly their fake electors' documents to Washington. A staffer for Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson texted a staffer for Vice President Pence just minutes before the beginning of the joint session. This staffer stated that Senator Johnson wished to hand-deliver to the vice president the fake electors' votes from Michigan and Wisconsin. The vice president's aide unambiguously instructed them not to deliver the fake votes to the vice president. Even though the fake elector slates were transmitted to Congress and the executive branch, the vice president held firm in his position that his role was to count lawfully submitted electoral votes.
Joseph R. Biden Jr. of the state of Delaware has received 306 votes. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 232 votes.
Which is what he did when the joint session resumed on January 6th after the attack on the Capitol.
Come on, man. What we just heard in that video was an aide to the White House Chief of Staff telling this committee that the White House counsel's office felt that this fake electors plan was not legally sound. Nevertheless, the Trump campaign went forward with the scheme anyway. Speaker Bowers, were you aware that fake electors had met in Phoenix on December 14th and purported to cast electoral votes for President Trump?
I was not.
When you learned that these electors had met and sent their electoral votes to Washington, what did you think?
Well, I thought of the book, The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. And I just thought, this is a tragic parody.
Mr. Bowers, I understand that as you flew from Phoenix to Washington yesterday, you reflected upon some passages from a personal journal that you were keeping in December 2020 while all of this was taking place. With your permission, I'm wondering if you would be willing to share one passage in particular with us.
Thank you very much. It is painful to have friends who have been such a help to me turn on me with such rancor. I may, in the eyes of men, not hold correct opinions or act according to their vision or convictions, but I do not take this current situation in a light manner, a fearful manner, or a vengeful manner. I do not want to be a winner by cheating. I will not play with laws I swore allegiance to, with any contrived desire towards deflection of my deep foundational desire to follow God's will as I believe He led my conscience to embrace. How else will I ever approach Him in the wilderness of life, knowing that I ask this guidance only to show myself a coward?
I don't even know what he's given like some so in the conscience of life fuck
Positions that you did following the 2020 election in defense of the rule of law and protecting the voters of Arizona resulted in you and your family being subjected to protests and terrible threats. Can you tell us how this impacted you and your family?
Well, as others in the videos have mentioned, we received, my secretaries would say, in excess of 20,000 emails and tens of thousands of voicemails and texts, which saturated our offices and we were unable to work, at least communicate. But at home, up till even recently, it is the new pattern or a pattern in our lives to worry what will happen on Saturdays, because we have various groups come by and they have had video panel trucks with videos of me proclaiming me to be a pedophile and a pervert and a corrupt and politician, and blaring loudspeakers in my neighborhood and leaving literature both on my property, but arguing and threatening with neighbors and with myself.
See, like, why is this a big deal? They're literally the same people that are using this as evidence against Donald Trump, essentially, are the same people that are backing protests outside of Supreme Court justices' homes. The same people. The same people. Bullshit. That's what it is. It's just bullshit.
And at the same time, on some of these, we had a daughter who was gravely ill, who was upset by
sucks.
What was happening outside. And my wife, that was a valiant person, very Very strong, quiet, very strong woman. So it was disturbing.
I mean, I see,
disturbing.
And I get that. I get how he says it's disturbing. I could be honest. If people are protesting outside my house, I'm probably going to get myself into some trouble, especially if my kids are upset by it and all that stuff. You have to give them that. But again, the people that are using that, Adam Schiff and all these other Shifty Shift, all these people that are using this as evidence are the very same people that are okay with people marching up and down outside of Justice Kavanaugh's home, screaming that it's their right to kill children, babies, which doesn't make any damn sense. They're not going after that. So, what did I missed it. They've adjoined. That's what Fuckface, Chairman Fuckface says. We're about halfway through this sucker. They're going to be coming back here in a few minutes. And this is the beauty of not live television, is I could just skip back to Shifty Shift running his fucking yap again. Let's listen to what Chairman Thompson has to say. The court is back in session. We're no longer adjoined. Not adjoined, it's adjourned. It's a hard time with English.
Here is the president on the afternoon of January 6th, after his own attorney general warned him that the claims you are about to hear are patently false.
They should find those votes. They should absolutely find that.
Oh shit, where'd I go? I disappeared.
Just over 11,000 votes, that's all we need. They defrauded us out of a win in Georgia, and we're not going to forget it.
We're not gonna.
So the state of Georgia is where we will turn our attention to next. I want to emphasize that our investigation into these issues is still ongoing. As I stated in our last hearing, if you have relevant information or documentary evidence to share with the Select Committee, we welcome your cooperation. But we will share some of our findings with you today. Secretary Raffensberger, thank you for being here today. You've been a public servant in Georgia since 2015, serving first as a member of the Georgia House of Representatives, and then since January 2019 as Georgia's Secretary of State. As a self-described conservative Republican, is it fair to say that you wanted President Trump to win the 2020 election?
Yes, it is.
The Secretary, many witnesses have told the Select Committee that Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, was a largely uneventful day in their home states. In spite of the challenges of conducting an election during a pandemic, you wrote in the Washington Post that the election was, quote, successful. Tell us, what was your impression of how Election Day had proceeded in Georgia?
On Election Day in November, our election went remarkably smooth.
Bullshit.
In fact, we meet at the GEMA headquarters. That's the Georgia Energy Emergency Management Association meeting location, but we were following wait times in line. In the afternoon, our average wait time was 3 minutes statewide that we were recording for various precincts. It actually got down to 2 minutes.
That's what I have to think of it, but you, Brad Raffensberger.
Administration and the operation of the election.
Yeah, right. Go smoke some
Thank
more
you.
pole.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff.
Shitty Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Raffensberger,
Come on, man.
Did Joe Biden win the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, and by what margin?
No. Come on, man.
President Biden carried the state of Georgia by approximately 12,000 votes.
If you hold near.
Mr. Secretary, as I understand it, your office took several steps to ensure the accuracy of the vote count in Georgia, reviewing the vote count in at least 3 different ways. These steps included a machine recount, a forensic audit, and a full hand recount of every one of the 5 million ballots cast. Did these efforts, including a recount of literally every ballot cast in the state of Georgia, confirm the result?
Yes, they did. We counted the ballots where the first tabulation would be scanned. Then when we did our 100% hand audit of the all 5 million ballots in the state of Georgia, all cast in place, all absentee ballots, they were all hand recounted, and they came remarkably close to the first count. And then upon the election being certified, President Trump, because he was within 0.5%, could ask for a recount, and then we recounted them again through the scanners, and we got remarkably the same count. 3 counts, all remarkably close, which showed that President Trump did come up short.
Nevertheless, as you will see, the president and his allies began making numerous false allegations of voter fraud. False allegations that you and Mr. Sterling, among others, had to address. Mr. Sterling, thank you also for being here today. Following the 2020 election, in addition to your normal duties, I understand that you became a spokesperson to try to combat disinformation about the election and the danger it was creating for elections officials, among others. In a December 1 press conference, you addressed some of your remarks directly to President Trump. Let's take a look at what you said that day.
Mr. President, it looks like you likely lost the state of Georgia. We're investigating. There's always a possibility. I get it. And you have the rights to go through the courts. What you don't have the ability to do, and you need to step up and say this, is stop inspiring people to commit potential acts of violence. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get killed. And it's not right. It's not right.
Mr. Sterling, what prompted you to make these remarks?
Mr. Schiff, we had a previously scheduled press conference that day, as we were in the habit of doing, trying to be as transparent as we could about the election and the counts going on. A little after lunch that day, lunchtime, I received a call from the project manager from Dominion Voting Systems, who was audibly shaken. She's not the kind of person I would assume would be that way. She has a master's from MIT, a graduate of the Naval Academy, and was very much on the ball and pretty unflappable. And she informed me about a young contractor they had who had been receiving threats from a video had been posted by some QAnon supporters. And at that point, we had been sort of steeping in this kind of stuff. So it was around us all the time. So I didn't take note of it more than adding to the pile of other stuff we were having to deal with. And I did pull up Twitter, and I scrolled through it, and I saw the young man's name. There was a particular tweet that, for lack of a better word, was a straw that broke the camel's back. Had the young man's name. It was a very unique name. I believe it was a first-generation American. And it said, had his name, "You committed treason. May God have mercy on your soul," with a slowly twisting gif of a noose. And for lack of a better word, I lost it. I just got irate. My boss was with me at the time, the Deputy Secretary, Jordan Fuchs, and she could tell that I was angry. I tend to turn red from here up when that happens, and that happened at that time. And she called Secretary Raffensberger to say, we're seeing these kind of threats, and Gabe thinks we need to say something about it. And the Secretary said yes, and that's what prompted me to do what I did. I lost my temper, but it seemed necessary at the time because it was just getting worse. And I could not tell you why that particular one was the one that put me over the edge, but it did.
After you made this plea to the president, did Donald Trump urge his supporters to avoid the use of violence?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, as we know, the president was aware of your speech because he tweeted about it later that day. Let's take a look at what the president said. In the tweet, Donald Trump claims that there was, quote, massive voter fraud in Georgia. Mr. Sterling, that was just plain false, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Nevertheless, the very next day, on December 2nd, President Trump released a lengthy video again making false claims of election fraud in Georgia. Let's take a look at what he said this time.
They found thousands and thousands of votes that were out of whack, all against me.
In fact, the day after Donald Trump released that video, so now we're talking just 2 days after the emotional warning that you gave that someone's going to get killed, representatives of President Trump appeared in Georgia, including Rudy Giuliani, and launched a new conspiracy theory that would take on a life of its own and threaten the lives of several innocent election workers. This story falsely alleges that sometime during election night, election workers at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, kicked out poll observers. After the observers left, the story goes, these workers pulled so-called suitcases of ballots from under a table and ran those ballots through counting machines multiple times. Completely without evidence, President Trump and his allies claimed that these suitcases contained as many as 18,000 ballots, all for Joe Biden. None of this was true. But Rudy Giuliani appeared before the Georgia State Senate and played a surveillance video from State Farm Arena, falsely claiming that it showed this conspiracy taking place. Here's a sample of what Mr. Giuliani had to say during that hearing.
And when you look at what you saw on the video, which to me was a smoking gun, powerful smoking gun, well, I don't have to be a genius to figure out what happened. And I don't have to be a genius to figure out that those votes are not legitimate votes. You don't put legitimate votes under a table.
No.
Wait until you throw the opposition out, and in the middle of the night, count them. We would have to be fools to think that.
President Trump's campaign amplified Giuliani's false testimony in a tweet, pushing out the video footage. Giuliani likewise pushed out his testimony on social media. As you can see in this tweet, Mr. Giuliani wrote that it was, quote, now beyond doubt, unquote, that Fulton County Democrats had stolen the election. Later in this hearing, we'll hear directly from one of the election workers in this video about the effect these lies had on her and on her family. Mr. Sterling, did the investigators in your office review the entire surveillance tape from the State Farm Arena on election night?
They actually reviewed approximately 48 hours going over the time period where action was taking place at the counting center at State Farm Arena.
And what did the tape actually show?
Depending on which time you want to start, because as was mentioned, this conspiracy theory took on a life of its own, where they conflated a water main break that wasn't a water main break and throwing observers out and a series of other things. What it actually showed was Fulton County election workers engaging in normal ballot processing. One of the things that was very frustrating was the so-called suitcases of ballots from under the table. If you watch the entirety of the video, you saw that these were election workers who were under the impression they were going to get to go home around 10:30. People are putting on their coats. They're putting ballots that are prepared to be scanned into ballot carriers that are then sealed with tamper-proof seals so that they can, they're not messed with. It's an interesting thing because you watch there's 4 screens of the video. And as you're watching it, you can see the election monitors in the corner with the press as they're taking these ballot carriers and putting them under the table. You see it there. One of the other hidden ones, if you looked at the actual tape, was on the outside of the table, just from the camera angle. You couldn't see it originally. And this goes under the no good deed goes unpunished. We were told, we were at GEMA, as the secretary pointed out, and we were told that it looked like they were shutting down the Fulton County counting. The secretary expressed some displeasure at that because we wanted to everybody keep counting so we could get to the results and know what was happening. So our elections director called their elections director, who was at another location because this was election day. There was 2 different places where ballot things were being done by the Fulton County office. So he called the elections director of Fulton, then called Ralph Jones, who was at the State Farm Arena, and said, what the heck are you doing? Go ahead and stay. As you watch the video itself, you see him take the phone call as people are putting things away and getting ready to leave. You can tell for about 15, 20 seconds, he does not want to tell these people they have to stay. He walks over, he thinks about it for a second, you see him come back to the corner of a desk and kind of slumps his shoulders and says, okay, y'all, we got to keep on counting. And then you see him take their coats off, get the ballots out, and then a secondary thing that you'll see on there is you'll have people who are counting ballots who a batch will go through, they will take them off and run that through again. What happens there is a standard operating procedure. If there is a misscan, if there's a misalignment, if it doesn't read right, these are high-speed, high-capacity scanners. So 3 or 4 will go through after a misscan. You have to delete that batch and put it back through again. And by going through the hand tally, as the secretary pointed out, we showed that if there had been multiple ballots scanned without a corresponding physical ballot, your counts would have been a lot higher than the ballots themselves. And by doing the hand tally, we saw 2 specific numbers that were met. The hand tally got us to a 0.1053% off of the total votes cast and 0.0099% on the margin, which is essentially dead on accurate. Most academic studies say on a hand tally you'll have between 1% and 2%, but because we use ballot marking devices where it's very clear what the voter intended, it made it a lot easier for us to conduct that hand count and show that none of that was true.
Now, I understand that when you reviewed these tapes and did the analysis, it disproved this conspiracy theory. But you still had to take a lot of steps to try to make sure the public knew the truth about these allegations. And you did frequent briefings for the press. Let's take a look at one of those press briefings, Mr. Sterling, that you held on December 7th to make the point that you just did today.
Move on to what I'm going to call Disinformation Monday. Out of the gate, many of y'all saw the videotape from State Farm Arena. I spent hours with our post-certified investigators, Justin Gray from WSB, spent hours with us going over this video to explain to people that what you saw, the secret suitcases with magic ballots, were actually ballots that had been packed into those absentee ballot carriers by the workers in plain view of the monitors and the press. And what's really frustrating is the president's attorneys had this same videotape. They saw the exact same things the rest of us could see, and they chose to mislead state senators and the public about what was on that video. I'm quite sure that they will not characterize the video if they try to enter into evidence, because that is the kind of thing that could lead to sanctions, because it's obviously untrue. They knew it was untrue, and they continue to do things like this.
Mr. Sterling, despite the efforts by your office to combat this misinformation by speaking out publicly and through local media, you were unable to match the reach of President Trump's platform and social media megaphone spreading these false conspiracy theories. What was it like to compete with a president who had the biggest bully pulpit in the world to push out these false claims?
For lack of a better word, it was frustrating. But oftentimes I felt our information was getting out, that there was a reticence of people who needed to believe it because the President of the United States, whom many looked up to and respected, was telling them it wasn't true, despite the facts. And I characterized at one point, it was kind of like a shovel trying to empty the ocean. And yes, it was frustrating. I even have, family members who I had to argue with about some of these things, and I would show them things, and the problem you have is you're getting to people's hearts. I remember there's one specific, an attorney that we know that we showed and walked him through, this wasn't true, okay, I get that, this wasn't true, okay, I get that, this wasn't, 5 or 6 things, but at the end he goes, I just know in my heart they cheated. That's just, and so once you get past the heart, the facts don't matter as much. And our job, from our point of view, is to get the facts out, do our job, tell the truth, follow the Constitution, follow the law, and defend the institutions, and the institutions held.
Let's take a look at what you were competing with. This is the former president speaking in Georgia on December 5th.
Evidence of fraud is overwhelming, and again, I'm going to ask you to look up at that very, very powerful and very expensive screen.
Hidden cases of possible ballots are rolled out from under a table. 4 people under a cloud of suspicion.
So, if you just take the crime of what those Democrat workers were doing, and by the way, there was no water main break. They said there was no water main break. That's 10 times more than I need to win this state. 10 times more. It's 10 times, maybe more than that, but it's 10 times more because we lost by a very close number.
This committee's hearing last Monday, we heard from senior federal law enforcement officials, from the senior-most federal law enforcement official in Atlanta at the time, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District, B.J. Pack, as well as former Attorney General Bill Barr. They both testified that the allegations were thoroughly investigated and found to have no merit. Here is U.S. Attorney Pack.
To go to Attorney General Barr, I told him that we looked into it. We've done several things, including interviewing the witnesses. I listened to the tapes and reviewed the videotape myself, and that there was nothing there. Giuliani was wrong in representing that this was a suitcase full of ballots.
And here's what Attorney General Bill Barr had to say about the same allegations.
Took a hard look at this ourselves, and based on our review of it, including the interviews of the key witnesses, the Fulton County allegations had no merit.
We also have testimony from senior Department of Justice officials establishing that they specifically told President Trump that these allegations had been thoroughly investigated and were completely without merit. Here is Acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donoghue describing a phone conversation in which he specifically told President Trump that these allegations were false.
He kept fixating on this suitcase that supposedly had fraudulent ballots and that the suitcase was rolled out from under the table. And I said, no, sir, there is no suitcase. You can watch that video over and over. There is no suitcase. There is a wheeled bin where they
carry the ballots. No matter how many times senior Department of Justice officials, including his own Attorney General, told the president that these allegations were not true, President Trump kept promoting these lies and putting pressure on state officials to accept them. On January 2nd, the president had a lengthy telephone conversation with Secretary Raffensberger. Prior to the president's call, though, I want to share a bit of important context. First, the White House, including the former president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, repeatedly called or texted the secretary's office some 18 times in order to set up this call. They were quite persistent. Second, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows took the extraordinary step of showing up at a signature audit site in Georgia, where he met with Secretary Raffensperger's chief investigator, Francis Watson, who was supervising that audit process. Behind me is a photograph from that visit. Third, the day after Meadows' Georgia visit, he set up a call between President Trump and Francis Watson. On the call between President Trump and Georgia investigator Francis Watson, the former president continued to push the false claim that he'd won the state of Georgia. Let's listen to that part of the conversation.
You know, you have the most important job in the country right now, because if we win Georgia, first of all, if we win, you're going to have two wins. So they're not going to win right now. You know, they're down because the people of Georgia are so angry at what happened to me. They know I won by hundreds of thousands of votes. It wasn't close.
And in this next clip, he told this state law enforcement official that she'd be praised if she found the right answer.
I will, when the right answer comes out, you'll be praised. I mean, I don't know why, they made it so hard. They will be praised. People will say, great, because that's what it's about, that ability to check and to make it right. Because everyone knows it's wrong. There's just no way.
Mr. Raffensberger, I know you weren't on this call, but that you have listened to it. President Trump didn't win by hundreds of thousands of votes in Georgia, did he?
No, he did not. I've been traveling through the state of Georgia for a year now, and simply put, in a nutshell, what happened in fall of 2020 is that 28,000 Georgians skipped the presidential race, and yet they voted down ballot in other races. And the Republican congressman ended up getting 33,000 more votes than President Trump, and that's why President Trump came up short.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The president on this call doesn't stop here. Let's listen to another part of the conversation between President Trump and Ms. Watson.
Anyway, but whatever you can do, Francis, it would be, it's a great thing. It's an important thing for the country. So important. You have no idea it's so important. Well, and I very much appreciate it.
Whatever you can do, Francis. This is the President of the United States calling an investigator looking into the election in which he is a candidate and asking her to do whatever you can do. Mr. Secretary, he placed this call to your chief investigator on September 23rd, 2020. The Select Committee has received text messages indicating that Mark Meadows wanted to send some of the investigators in her office, in the words of one White House aide, a shitload of POTUS stuff, including coins, actual autographed MAGA hats, etc. White House staff intervened to make sure that didn't happen. It was clear at the time of this call that the former president had his sights set on January 6th. Listen to this portion when he told Francis Watson about a very important date.
Do you think they'll be working after Christmas and keep it going fast? Because, we have that date of the 6th, which is a very important date.
An important date, of course, was the joint session of Congress, where Georgia's electoral votes would be counted for Joe Biden. A little over a week after this call to Francis Watson, the president was finally able to speak with you, Secretary Raffensberger. Bear in mind, as we discuss this call today, that by this point in time, early January, the election in Georgia had already been certified. But perhaps more important, the President of the United States had already been told repeatedly by his own top Justice Department officials that the claims he was about to make to you about massive fraud in Georgia were completely false. Mr. Secretary, the call between you and the President lasted 67 minutes, over an hour. We obviously can't listen to the entire recording here today, although it is available on the Select Committee's website. We'll listen to selected excerpts of it now so that we can get your insights. Let's begin with the President raising the thoroughly debunked allegations of suitcases of ballots.
In an official voter box, they were in what looked to be suitcases or trunks, suitcases, but they weren't in voter boxes. The minimum number it could be, because we watched it and they watched it certified in slow motion, instant replay, if you can believe it, but it had slow motion and it was magnified many times over. And the minimum it was 18,000 ballots, all for Biden.
These are the allegations that the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and your office had all said were false. Is that right?
Correct. And even more importantly, when B.J. Pack resigned as U.S. Attorney of the Northern District, President Trump appointed as acting U.S. Attorney of the Northern District, Bobby Christine. And Bobby Christine looked at that, and he was quoted in the AJC that he found nothing, and he dismissed that case early also.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The President references suitcases or trunks. Mr. Sterling, were the objects seen in these videos suitcases or trunks, or were they just the ordinary containers that are used by election workers?
They're standard ballot carriers that allow for seals to be put on them so they're tamper-proof.
And finally, the President claims that there was a minimum of 18,000 ballots somehow smuggled in, all for Biden. I take it, gentlemen, that was also categorically false?
There's no physical way he can know who those ballots were for, but secondarily, Fulton County for years has been an issue in our state when it comes to elections. So they had a very difficult time during the primary, in large part because of COVID. So we had put them under a consent decree the Secretary got negotiated, where we had a monitor on site. And his name is Carter Jones, and he took a notation. He had gone from State Farm to the English Street warehouse to look at election day activities, but before he left the State Farm Arena, he noted how many ballots had been counted on each one of the machines. And when he came back after we found out they were working again, he took note again when they closed. And I believe the final number was something around 8,900 total ballots were scanned from the time he left to the time about 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So way below 18,000.
Let's play the next clip.
I heard it was.
Shut up. We'll listen to the next clip. Here, I have to interrupt this for breaking news. We're doing a Cash App Blitz. You know what that is? I don't know. I just made it up. It's where you guys all chip in and help me get some gas money to drive this big-ass gas hog of a motorhome and trailer all the way out to the Trump rally this Saturday. We need your help, man. You guys know we've been doing this every now and then now because, well, we do. We need your help. Cash App, Venmo, they are instant. There's no fees taken out. It's the best way. The Cash App is in the link for Cash App is in all your chats right there. I'd really, really appreciate it if you want to throw me a little something. I know a lot of you guys are just, everyone is hurting for, a little bit money. But I mean, we have several hundred people right now. If everyone did $5, that's the gas there and back. No joke. Like that's the truth. Because, well, we need it. We're viewer supported. You don't see big fancy advertisements. You don't, like some of these other ones are promotional. And we also don't have 50,000 people watching. So I need your help. All right. I need your help. I did not get Google AdSense today. Have no idea where it is. This is just my fucking life. So, and Facebook only paid half of what they owe because they keep screwing up, and I don't know why. But I'll give shout outs as they come in right now. So shout out to Amanda for that Cash App. I appreciate that. But we're doing a Cash App Blitz, something I've never done before. If you have the Cash App, you could do it. Venmo. April, we'll type in the Venmo. I think that one is PT News Network is the Venmo. But yeah, we need your help. I want to get out there. I'm going to be more outlandish, you know what I mean, with my interviews. And if I drop the internet, I'm going to record everything and we'll upload it later. But I want to talk to some of the people. I have questions. Patriot operator said I paid off my house last week, so things are a little tight till Friday. All right, I hear you. My life is $5 in my bank account until the first of next month. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. That's why we have to do this. You know, it is what it is. You know, we rely on viewers. We rely on our sales. I don't want you to buy coffee right now, to be completely honest, because FedEx still has not dropped off the 140 pounds of coffee that's going. So the coffee that I have in stock, I have to take with me to Iowa. Dustin with the Cash App as well. Thank you so much, man. You know, if you can do it, I appreciate it. And Dustin said 2 gallons for you. Because, yeah, it is. It's fucking $5 a gallon. But anyway, the rally's in Illinois. It's approximately 850 miles from me. So I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon at some point. My wife got 18 gallons of water, which is great because we need water to make coffee. But yeah, it's, I'm going regardless. I'm going, you know, I told everyone this may be the last hurrah. Like if I don't sell all these coffee cups and at least make the fuel money back, I'm fucked. but you know what? This is what we got to do. I got to get out there. I got to talk about the country. I got to talk to people and find out what's really going on. And who knows? Maybe I'll have an announcement depending on who wins this congressional race. Cause you know, I was talking about this the other day, you know what? Fuck this stupid hearing. Let me rant for a little bit. Look at those like fancy, like, oh, it doesn't do it. Never mind. But yeah, that's because the sun is going through this light bulb right here. Shout out to Steve Miley with the Cash App. Thank you, bud. Oh, and Steve Miley almost, what was that? What was that? That's 20 gallons, 25 gallons right there. Steve Miley. Thank you, bro. Seriously, thank you. But yeah, what else was I going to say? What was I talking about? Fuck, I don't even remember. Fucking A. What was I talking about? Oh, yeah. I was joking with my wife. So you know that little story about that I said earlier? So we finished our living room and we put, you know, it's all painted. The floor is done. The floor is done in the kitchen and the hallway now. Everything's done, right? Except the roof. We still need a new roof, but we'll deal with that when winter comes or before winter. You know what I mean? Because I'm not going up on a roof right now. It's too fucking hot. Anywho, so the floor is done. I didn't do it. I had to hire people, which is why we have no fucking money because I spent 4 hours trying to do it and I couldn't get it at all. Unfortunately, because I have no idea how to do the floor. You know, I fucked it all up. Anyway, we did the living room. So long story short, we have a sofa and we got a love seat and we have this ugly ass white coffee table and these ugly ass white end tables and then this ugly ass TV stand that my mom gave us. It's like an antique or some shit. And then we got our TV and then we have this like blue fucking storage bullshit. I don't know. I'm not a designer. So long story short, all of that in a very small living room. Living room is probably about as wide as this office and maybe not twice as long, maybe 1.5 times this space here. So it's kind of small. So my wife sets up the furniture because I was working, of course. So she sets up the furniture with the love seat off center. Like that was one thing that pissed me off. It was off center, but directly across from the sofa. And I couldn't figure out why. And she didn't want to move it and all that stuff. And then I figured it out this morning. Because she sat down at 5:30 in the morning and literally she sits down direct across from me like we're sitting at a kitchen table and proceeds to talk to me while I'm watching the morning news. And that, you know, I said, this couch situation's going to have to fucking adjust here. It's not going to work. But I said, you know, I did joke with her this morning and I said, listen, you can keep the living room like this if you'll allow me to run for Congress. And she actually thought about it. Thank you, Brian, for that Cash App. She was like, because she kind of liked that. I don't know. I may just fucking surprise her. I don't know. If I ever say I'm taking a day trip down to Richmond, you guys know what I'm doing. Because I'm so fucking annoyed by what's going on in this country. And I have a big feeling that the person that I cast my vote for today, even though he's better than the current incumbent, you know, I voted, I'll tell y'all, I voted for Merritt Hale, the guy that I interviewed for our congressman. He's running against Ben Klein. Ben Klein refused to come on the show. He also refused to debate Merritt Hale, which is kind of interesting. Ben Klein has a shit ton of money. And I think it would be fun to tear into them. You know, there's been a couple of people that have run successful write-in campaigns. And to be honest, to win, I just need like 140,000 votes. I could do that. I'll just walk around shirtless, fucking up and down the street, 20 miles, boom, 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 every day, carrying a sign saying, vote for me. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But then I was seriously looking. I'm like, how could I do this? I'm like, do I have to register? Like, if you're a write-in candidate, do you have to register and do a declaration of candidacy and all that? And except they don't want a lot of information out there, so they don't do it. But anyway, we're doing right now a Bonnie, thank you for that Cash App as well. We're doing a Cash App blitz. Now, I just made up this. It's not a real thing, but it's for fuel money. All right. So far, we're about to 1 tank of gas in the motorhome, which is great. You know, that'll get me like 200 miles. But we're at like 1 tank of gas. I am going out to Mendon, Illinois. Okay, Mendon. If you live within 200 miles of Mendon, Illinois, come out and see me. I don't give a shit if you don't want to hang out there because it's cold or it's warm or blah blah. Just come, drive the 2 hours. Be like, Steve, thank you for doing what you do. I really appreciate it. And then be like, now I'm bouncing. People did that in Iowa. They drove like 2 hours. They're like, man, we just came here to see you. We're not waiting in line. It's too hot, and they left. But they did, and that's great. And I want people to come out. I want people to see. You won't be able to miss the damn trailer. It says Citizen Stringer News in white and red lettering on the side. Real news by real people. Fuck Joe Biden. No, it doesn't say that. It should. But I'm going to have collectible mugs. 40 mugs. Now, this is the thing. You got to get there pretty early on Saturday morning if you want one of the collectible mugs, because I only have 40 of them, and I'm not saving them. But what they are is I showed them once. They say they're the Save America Rally, like the T-shirts I used to make. Save America Rally, and it says Mendon, Illinois, and then the date. And hopefully I got all the date and everything right. But then we have those, and then we have about 70 other mugs, all different ones. The Let's Go Brandon mugs and Anatomy of a Pew mugs and all that stuff. So, and we're doing that purely. We're not trying to make a profit on the mugs. The reason why I decided to do the mugs is because, one, it doesn't cost a lot to make them, for anyone that knows that. And secondly, because I print them all here. Secondly, that'll essentially, if I sell every mug that I have, that should more than cover the fuel. And, I'm going to have to stop at a campsite one night or something so I could drain the shitter. I may do that tomorrow night. Or maybe I'll find a campsite close to Mendon, Illinois, an RV site. Or maybe does a campground, the Adams Fairground, do they have RV sites? April, can you look that up? Can you see? And if there is, can you reserve me one? Because I don't think the place that's working on the motorhome right now has emptied that drain. I already know it's not a carry state. I already know. So I won't be worried. You don't have to worry about it. How big is your fuel tank? Is it diesel? How many miles per hour does it get? Miles per gallon. No, it's a gas guzzler. It's a V12, I think, V10, something like that. It's a Thor Majestic. And it gets roughly 7 to 8 miles per gallon. So I'm towing the trailer, so it's probably gonna, that's fully loaded with kids and shit. So it's probably not gonna do that well. We're at the intermission if you're tuning in for the first time. Thank you there, Mandy, for that $5 Cash App as well. Thank you so much. Missed what happened on the 8th by Russia. You'll have to figure that out on your own or just watch the beginning of this. We also got some Venmos. I didn't even see those. Mandy with a $5 Venmo. Thank you. And Brian with a Venmo too. Reply to your email. What is your email? Send me another email. If you're talking about your coffee orders, I already addressed those. The coffee orders, because I have to prioritize, and I know it sucks. FedEx has been fucking up on my deliveries for coffee. They sent it on Friday. They just roasted a new 140-pound batch. They sent it on Friday. FedEx was supposed to deliver it yesterday. There was a delivery exception. So it was supposed to be delivered today, and then I got another delivery exception. And so I'm hoping it comes by tomorrow, because otherwise I don't even have a lot of coffee to sell when I'm at the event. So I really hope that it works. How big is your fuel tank? So the fuel tank, I think, is like 25 gallons, 30 gallons, something like that. Before fuel was like super crazy, maybe $4 a gallon. The last time I used a motorhome, it would get like $150 would fill that fuel tank just one time. And then it's like $220. Dump it in Chicago. I know they won't be able to spell the difference. But yeah, I don't know what else. We're just doing a little intermission from this stupid bullshit. We will go back to it, so don't you worry if you don't like this infomercial. But we got to do what we got to do. We're up to $135 on Cash App. So that's essentially just like Bonnie is your nickname. Oh, okay, Eden, thank you so much. But that's essentially a gas tank full for the truck. Now, the motorhome is approximately what? I don't know. It's a Thor 28 Majestic, so it's 28 feet of camper shell. So it's probably 35 foot long. And then my trailer's 50 foot. Or yeah, 50. So I'm not driving a semi. My trailer is 20 foot inside, so it's like $25 or 25. So altogether, we're going to be the same length as the fucking semi. And I'm going to try my damnedest to back this sucker up real good. But yeah, in the trailer, the best part about it is I don't even need to bring the trailer. I'm doing it just for advertising. Like, because what am I going to bring? I got 3. It's not like I'm bringing shirts and shit. All of it in the RV has so much storage space. But the trailer is just going to have like 5 boxes in it. But I'm bringing it anyway. I don't care. Because what they do now at the Trump rallies, you can't keep your vehicle there unless you're media. They may let me because I'm fucking awesome, but then I'm going to try to park, instead of parking with all the other vendors and shit, I'm going to try to park right in front of Real America's Voice, and then I'm going to play the national anthem over their broadcast. Yeah, because they fucking suck, and they talk through the national anthem when they're in Loudoun County at a Glenn Youngkin event with Dr. Ben Carson when he was talking, and they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and the commentator's like, yeah, so they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance, blah, 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 and people came up and they're like, yo, it's a Pledge of Allegiance, will you shut up? And they're like, we are media. I don't know why you're attacking us. We're on your side. And they're like, fuck you, shut up. And they're like, no, we're not going to shut up. And then I took the camera and started recording them because I was like, you sacks of shit. Someone said, will you get the money I sent through the website before you go? Yeah, probably. It depends which way you sent it. It hasn't sent me like a notification. So was it with, did you do it with a credit card? Yeah, I could check real quick. I'll check. Because I want to give shout outs to everybody. And with the credit cards ones, obviously I'm not going to say your name. I'll just say your first name, first initial, so you know it's you. Oh yeah, is this a one transaction? See, this is fucking stupid. It takes money. Holy shit. Hayes, is that you? $200. Fill the fuel tank. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, so I just realized too, all of my monthly plans, we're going to have to figure this out. All of my monthly plans, or not all of them, but a lot of them failed for some reason. Oh God, that just shows that it's so bad. A lot of the people that were on the monthly $7.99 plan, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people today alone that failed. Well, that's why this account isn't looking up, because it says it was declined for insufficient funds. So I could see. I won't say your names. That would be fucked up. But yeah. Yeah, I appreciate everyone. And thank you so much, Hayes. I'm not going to say your name, the rest of it, but thank you so much, Hayes, for that $200. 200. Brian said, but you probably addressed these on video. I missed to see. I like how it's not in love with politically right. If you feel like throwing an extra hat in. I don't know. No, those are all PT ones. So I'll have to check, Brian. We're behind, dude. I'm doing everything I can to fucking stay afloat here. So, and here's the thing, with the shipping costs have gone up and they don't reflect it with the coffee. So what I'm going to do is you guys are going to see something new in the next. All right. I haven't talked about this with all the other stakeholders and shit. I may be switching to a different coffee vendor. I found a new one. They're sending me all their sample. Like when you work with a new coffee roaster, what they typically do is you choose the flavors and then they send you the sample, roast, so they're roasting them now and they'll send them out tomorrow and then we'll have them. And so, but I found a new roaster where it's way more cost effective and they have like better reviews than the roaster that I'm roasting with now. And I mean, from a fiscal standpoint, I save like $5 a pound in total. So like for me, it's a no fucking brainer. But again, quality of coffee is a huge deal. So that may switch. But then there's a caveat to it is you got to order a lot more, which kind of sucks butthole. But I may be able to do CBD infused coffee. And, I'm a big fan of Just CBD. They're a sponsor of this show. Just CBD. These ones are old as fuck because they're just my display ones. But yeah, so they have CBD, and they have way more flavors too, a lot more variety. They have a higher minimum though, so it costs me a lot more to get the coffee. I have to keep a lot more coffee in stock. But in terms of some of the growth, like the coffee shop and doing all the shit that we're going to be doing in the future, their product actually works better because you can also get smaller packaging, which the other vendor can't do unless I order a pallet of it. So there's a lot. There's a lot going on, so I've been trying to figure out the best way to do it. I'll be honest, the fucking shit's tighter than a fucking, a walrus's butthole. All right? Like, I don't care who you are. This shit's getting rough. Love it 2 times with I think it was a Cash App. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I think, did I get Mandy? Thank you for that Cash App. But yeah, it's things are tighter than a walrus's butthole, here. The economy's fucking trash for everybody. Our sales went way down. It's not because our product sucks. No, our fucking product, have you tasted our coffee? It's so good. That's one reason why I'm a little apprehensive about switching the roaster, is because they could say they can match the roast, but I don't fucking believe that kind of shit. It's like saying someone could do my job. You can't do my job. It's me, but yeah, I have to figure out how to keep this whole fucking thing going, to be completely honest, because when revenue drives up, like Facebook, for fucking whatever reason, they used to pay on the first, like in the beginning of the month and then around today, so I got an email that said my settlement was a couple of grand, right? And then I got not even close to that. So, and I don't know, Facebook doesn't give you any actual, so like when you email them and you're like, yo, you fucked up my settlement, where the fuck is my money? They don't answer you. And, it's like when they report you for being false news or, sharing fact checks or whatever, and then they just don't answer you. It's the same thing when they owe you money. Google AdSense was supposed to send out today, and they have not, and which is also very, very frustrating, because I also have employees, and I've lined up my pay for one of the employees to coincide with Google AdSense. So unfortunately, we're all, we're all at the behest of these big tech overlords, and whatever. I'm never, here's the priority that I have financially, and this is going to fucking offend some, but I don't care. Here's my priority financially. Make sure my mortgage is paid on the house. Make sure the rent's paid here. Then pay the rest of the bills. I don't care about anything else. Mortgage is paid at the house. Rent is paid here. And then everything else, then I'll pay the employees, the other bills to keep, like, as long as I have this space so I can keep doing the show, and the internet, of course, which is $500 a month. But as long as I have the capability of doing the show, I'm never going to fucking stop. It doesn't matter if I'm, as long as and I'll go get a fucking another job, just to be able to pay those 2 bills. Because in all reality, those 2 bills together are less than what we normally pay for rent. So, I'll go fucking drive an Uber once a week to fucking make up the difference of these videos if I have to. But I also got to get out there and do more. Or maybe this is like, everyone is just being like, maybe God, he's looking down and saying, Steve, you must run for Congress. Maybe that's what's going on. Because I tell you what, even like when I was talking to my wife over, yelling at her over the couches from like 5 feet away, I literally was like, hey, you can leave the living room like this. I just get to run for Congress. And she was like, she thought about it. And so I may be wearing her down. It could be that I ask her permission like 7 times a day. And do I think I'd win? Fuck no, but I think I could get on major television and news and national media just by calling out every fucking person, because I do it all day like here. But here I'm just a guy talking on YouTube, talking on Facebook, talking on Twitch. You add, congressional candidate next to my name. Fucking A, I'll kick in doors. Like, I'll say, oh, what are you going to do in Washington? I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. When one of these motherfuckers says, reclaim my time, I'm going to be like, come and get it. You're like, you come and get your time. Like, you ain't reclaiming shit. But I don't know. Can you not wear a tie? Is there a dress code? Because I may be out. If I got to wear a tie in Washington, I may be fucked. Like when the lobbyists come, oh, Congressman, Transmittal, we'd love to take you out to dinner. Go fuck yourself. Go over to Kevin McCarthy or Adam Kinzinger's office, fuckers. Like shit. We're here to make America great. Not make America great again. Make America great. Make America America. Let's make America. That would be my slogan. Make America America. You know what I mean? Shit. Run for office. They open all your closets. Got anything you don't want public, then don't run. I got to shit. But here's the thing. I got a million things I don't want public. But you know what? And that's the whole reason why my wife is like, no, don't do it. She's like, what about the time you threw the guy through the window? It doesn't fucking matter. Because, that's all my dirty laundry. I don't give a shit. I won't run that kind of campaign either. We wouldn't go dirty on people. Fuck no. We'll just say, look, this motherfucker voted to send $40 billion to Ukraine. How do you like them apples? Like, I could win on that premise alone. He sent your money to Ukraine. How do you like your gas tank? Like, I don't know. Yeah, they dig up dirt. They play dirty. Yeah, they would, be like, oh, gee, you filed bankruptcy once, and you're like, fucking yeah, I did. I had no choice. I was going to lose everything. We fucking did. That's what bankruptcy does. Loses everything, Oh, you grew up in foster care. Fucking right. That's who I am today. Oh, you did this. Yep, that's why I am who I am. I'm a fucking beast. A beast of a man. And all the bad shit I did in my life, you know what? I turned it all around. Married a great girl, fucking had great kids. I was a firefighter, did CPR, and fucking didn't work. People died. But you know what? I mean, I fought diversity, and I won. Diversity of being a white male in America. Just for all you fucking leftists, heads exploded right now.
Close. I said, there's no way.
Let's go back to this shit before I say something bad.
Late at night. You know that, Brett.
Dropped a lot of bullshit.
Mr. Secretary, did somebody drop a lot of votes there late at night?
Hell yeah, they did.
No.
I
believe that the president was referring to.
Hold on. Now I got to delete this video after. I wasn't hearing. I was still stuck on the, oh my God, I said diversity and said single white male. Except I'm not single, I'm married. So that whole statement was false. Anyway, for anyone that's just tuning in, we are doing a Cash App Blitz. We are traveling out to Mendon, Illinois. We'll be there Saturday for the Trump rally. We'll be live broadcasting, giving away 1,000 free cups of coffee right here. To whoever wants them. Plus, we got some coffee mugs. But if you want to meet me, you just want to hang out, like seriously, bring a fucking folding chair. I'm not going into the fucking rally. I'm going to be outside the whole time. I got a little projector. I'll throw up fucking RSBN. We'll watch it on the side of the gosh damn trailer. You think I'm joking? I'm not. I did get the apply for the press pass. If I do, I'll go get it for a souvenir. I'm not going in. I'm going to be out there talking to people, just hanging out, meeting people. It's a meet and greet, son. But yeah, if you can, seriously, in all seriousness, if you could, if we have everybody right now, 366 people, I could count on two hands how many people actually contributed. 366 people across social media right now are watching this. Every single one of you, go to this link. It's in your chat right now. Go right now. Bam. It's a Freight Broker Live, the old one. Go right there right now. Right now. And throw $5, $10, $15, $100, $200, $500. I think that's the max you could do on Cash App. But please, help me out. We need it. We need it, and then we'll go. Someone said is asking for email on Zelle. Yes, it's my live at Freight Broker Live. That's just go to F Antifa. Fucking A. This is too much work. I don't know how they do it. FreightBrokerLive.com. That email right there is the email for Zelle, for anyone who wants to Zelle. All right, anyway, let's go back to this.
When they would upload. But
I got to get a drink. I'm fucking thirsty.
It had to be accepted by state law by 7 p.m. So there were no additional ballots accepted after 7 p.m.
Let's play the next clip in which the president makes claims about so-called dead voters.
The other thing, dead people. So dead people voted, and I think the number is in the close to 5,000 people. And they went to obituaries, they went to all sorts of methods to come up with an accurate number, and a minimum is close to about 5,000 voters.
Mr. Secretary, did your office investigate whether those allegations were accurate? Did 5,000 dead people in Georgia vote?
No, it's not accurate. And actually, in their law.
Here, hold on. Shout out to Keith and Jennifer for the Cash Apps. Thank you so much.
I wrote my letter to Congress that stated January 6th And subsequent to that, we found 2 more. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 people, not 4,000, but just a total of 4, not 10,000, not 5,000.
Let's play the next clip.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and absentee ballots, I mean, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Mr. Secretary, is there any way that you could have lawfully changed the result in the state of Georgia and somehow explained it away as a recalculation?
No, the numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations, and we investigated every single one of them. In fact, I challenged my team, did we miss anything? They said that there was over 66,000 underage voters. We found that there's actually 0. You can register to vote in Georgia. When you're 17 and a half, you have to be 18 by election day. We checked that out, every single voter. They said that there was 2,423 non-registered voters. There was 0. They said that there was 2,056 felons. We identified less than 74 or less that were actually still in felony sentence. Every single allegation we checked. We ran down the rabbit trail to make sure that our numbers were accurate.
So there's no way you could have recalculated it except by fudging the numbers?
The numbers were the numbers, and we could not recalculate because we had made sure that we had checked every single allegation. And we had many investigations. We had nearly 300 from the 2020 election.
Mr. Secretary, you tried to push back when the president made these unsupported claims, whether they were about suitcases of ballots or that Biden votes were counted 3 times. Let's play the next clip.
President, they did not put that. We did an audit of that, and we proved conclusively that they were not scanned 3 times. Yeah, Mr. President, we'll send you the link from WSB that does.
I don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have a much better link.
You told the president you would send him a link from WSB, which I understand is a local television station that had a unedited video from the State Farm Arena. But the president wasn't interested in that. He said he had a much better link. Mr. Secretary, at the time that you were on the call with the president, as we have shown, both the FBI and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation have proven these claims to be nonsense. And you told him about these investigations on the phone. Let's listen to what President Trump had to say about the state and federal law enforcement officers who investigated these false claims.
There's no way they could, then they're incompetent. They're either dishonest or incompetent, okay? There's only 2 answers, dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way, look, there's no way.
But the president didn't stop at insinuating that law enforcement officers were either dishonest or incompetent. He went on to suggest that you could be subject to criminal liability for your role in the matter. Before I play that portion of the conversation, I'd like to show you something that the president retweeted a couple weeks before your call with him. Here's the president retweeting a post from one of his allies, a lawyer who was later sanctioned by a judge in Michigan for making false claims of election fraud. Let's take a look at that tweet. The tweet read, quote, "President Trump, at real Donald Trump, is a genuinely good man. He does not really like to fire people. I bet he dislikes putting people in jail, especially, quote unquote, Republicans. He gave at Brian Kemp, Georgia, and at Georgia Secretary of State every chance to get it right. They refused. They will soon be going to jail." So on your call, this was not the first time the president was suggesting you might be criminally liable. With that, let's listen to this portion of the call.
I think you're going to find that they are shredding ballots because they have to get rid of the ballots because the ballots are unsigned. The ballots are corrupt. And they're brand new and they don't have seals and there's a whole thing with the ballots, but the ballots are corrupt. And you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense. And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk.
Secretary Raffensberger, after making a false claim about shredding of ballots, the president suggested that You may be committing a crime by not going along with his claims of election fraud. And after suggesting that you might have criminal exposure, President Trump makes his most explicit ask of the call. Let's play a part of that conversation.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Mr. Secretary, was the president here asking you for exactly what he wanted? One more vote than his opponent.
What I knew is that we didn't have any votes to find. We had to continue to look. We investigated, like I just shared the numbers with you. There were no votes to find. That was an accurate count that had been certified. And as our general counsel said, there was no shredding of ballots.
Mr. Secretary, after making this request, the president then goes back to the danger of having you deny these allegations of fraud. Let's listen to that part of the clip.
And I watched you this morning and you said, well, there was no criminality, but I mean, all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous for you to say that.
Secretary Raffensberger, you wrote about this in your book, and you said, quote, I felt then and still believe today that this was a threat. Others obviously thought so too, because some of Trump's more radical followers have responded as if it was their duty to carry out this threat. Please tell us what you, your wife, even your daughter-in-law experienced regarding threats from Trump's more radical followers.
Well, after the election, my email, my cell phone was doxxed, and so I was getting texts all over the country, and then eventually my wife started getting the text, and hers typically came in as sexualized texts, which were disgusting. You have to understand that Trish and I, we met in high school, and we've been married over 40 years now, and so they started going after her, I think, just to probably put pressure on me. Why don't you just quit, walk away? And so that happened. And then some people broke into my daughter-in-law's home. And my son has passed, and she's a widow and has 2 kids. And so we're very concerned about her safety also.
And Mr. Secretary, why didn't you just quit and walk away?
Because I knew that we had followed the law and we had followed the Constitution. And I think sometimes moments require you to stand up and just take the shots when you're doing your job. And that's all we did. You know, we just followed the law and we followed the Constitution. And at the end of the day, President Trump came up short. But I had to be faithful to the Constitution. And that's what I swore an oath to do.
During the remainder of the call, the former president continued to press you to find the remaining votes that would ensure his victory in Georgia. Let's listen to a little more.
Why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
4 days after the president's call to Secretary Raffensberger was January 6th. The president whipped up the crowd in front of the ellipse, once again promoting the allegation that Secretary Raffensberger, the president's own attorney general, had told him was false. Here he is on the ellipse.
In Fulton County, Republican poll watchers were ejected, in some cases physically, from the room under the false pretense of a pipe burst, water main burst, everybody leave, which we now know was a total lie. Then election officials pulled boxes, Democrats, and suitcases of ballots out from under a table. You all saw it on television, totally fraudulent, and illegally scanned them for nearly 2 hours, totally unsupervised. Tens of thousands of votes. This act coincided with a mysterious vote dump of up to 100,000 votes for Joe Biden, almost none for Trump. Oh, that sounds fair. That was at 1:34 a.m.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Sterling, I want to thank you for your service to the state of Georgia and to the country. Speaker Bowers, likewise, I want to thank you for your service to the state of Arizona and to the country. You have served not only your home states, but our nation and our democracy. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Schiff. I thank the witnesses for joining us today. You are now dismissed.
Is that it? No, there's more. There's another half an hour of this video. Shit. That can't be it. Shit. Dum, dum, bum, 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 bum. Got Donna with a new, is this a new one? Yeah, Donna with a Venmo. Thank you so much. I think I got you, Mandy. Jennifer, I got you. Keith and Larry. Thanks, guys. Is this it? This can't be it. Oh, no, this is no, we know who this is. You know who this is. This is the Atlanta ballot workers. Do you think they'll cry? I didn't see this. Let me know if you got the Zelle. I'll let you know right now. I did, Lana. Thank you.
I now welcome our final witness this afternoon. Andrea Shea Moss.
Shea Moss.
Ms. Moss worked in the Department of Registration and Elections in Fulton County, Georgia, from 2017 until 2022. In that job, Ms. Moss handled voter applications and absentee ballot requests, and also helped to process the vote count for several elections. In December 2020, Ms. Moss and her mother, Ms. Ruby Freeman, became the target of nasty lies spread by President Trump and his allies as they sought to overturn the election results in Georgia.
We've all
Ms.
seen
Moss
them.
and her mother, Ms. Freeman, are two of the unsung heroes in this country, doing the hard work of keeping our democracy functioning for every American. Ms. Moss, welcome. Thank you for your service, and I thank you for being here today. I will now swear you in. Please stand.
Please stand. Please stand.
Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
So help you God.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Please be seated.
Let the record reflect that the witness answered in the affirmative.
In the affirmative.
Ms. Moss, thank you very much for being here today. I understand that you are here along with your mother today.
Your mother.
Would you like to introduce your mama?
No.
Hi, Mom.
Turn on your mic.
Ms. Moss, today we'll be asking you about some of the threats
that you
received following the 2020 election. Since you've been an election worker for over 10 years, I want to ask you, in your decade of service, had you ever experienced threats like these before? Don't be nervous. I understand. So, and I want to make sure that the record reflects that you've done it for quite a while and you never received a threat. And your answer was no. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5C8 of the House Resolution 503, the chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff, for questions.
Good afternoon, Ms. Moss. Thank you for being here. I understand that you were employed by the Fulton County Registration and Elections Department for more than 10 years, and I understand that you love that job. Please tell us what made you so fond of the work that you did.
Well, I've always been told by my grandmother how important it is to vote, and how people before me, a lot of people, older people in my family, did not have that right. So what I loved most about my job were the older voters. Younger people could usually do everything from their phone or go online, but the older voters like to call, they like to talk to you, they like to get my card, they like to know that every election I'm here. And like even college students, a lot of parents trust in me to make sure their child does not have to drive home.
Trust in you, sweet Caroline.
I really found pleasure in that. I liked being the one that, you know, if someone can't navigate my voter page, or, you know, they want a new precinct card and they don't have a copy machine or a computer or all of that, I could put it in the mail for them. I was excited always about sending out all the absentee ballots for the elderly and disabled people. I even remember driving to an hospital to give someone her absentee application. That's what I love the most.
So you really enjoyed helping people vote and participate, and that was something, the right to vote, that your grandmother taught you was precious.
Yeah.
Well, I know the events that we're here to talk about today are incredibly difficult to relive. Your proud service as an election worker took a dramatic turn on the day that Rudy Giuliani publicized a video of you and your mother counting ballots on election night. President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others claimed on the basis of this video that you and your mother were somehow involved in a plot to kick out observers, bring suitcases of false ballots for Biden into the arena, and then run them through the machines multiple times. None of that was true, was it?
None of it.
I'd like to show you some of the statements that Rudy Giuliani made in a second hearing before the Georgia state legislators, a week after that video clip from State Farm Arena was first circulated by Mr. Giuliani and President Trump. I want to advise viewers that these statements are completely false and also deeply disturbing.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine. I mean, it's obvious to anyone who's a criminal investigator or prosecutor, they are engaged in surreptitious illegal activity again that day. And that's a week ago, and they're still walking around Georgia lying. They should have been questioned already. Their places of work, their homes should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud.
That video was from Rudy Giuliani's appearance at a Georgia State Senate hearing on December 10. How did you first become aware that Rudy Giuliani, the president's lawyer, was accusing you and your mother of a crime?
I was at work, like always, and the former chief, Mr. Jones, asked me to come to his office. And when I went to his office, the former director, Mr. Barron, was in there, and they showed me a video on their computer. It was just like a very short clip of us working at State Farm, and it had someone on the video like talking over the video, just saying that we were doing things that we weren't supposed to do, just lying throughout the video. And that's when I first found out about it.
And were there social media posts that they showed you responding to those false claims?
Well, when I saw the video, of course, the first thing that I said was like, why? Why are they doing this? What's going on? And they, just told me that Trump and his allies were not satisfied with the outcome of the election, and they were getting a lot of threats and being harassed online, and asked me, have I been receiving anything, and I need to check on my mom. And I told them, I was like, where have they, where have you been getting these threats? I don't believe I have any. And Mr. Jones told me, like, they're attacking his Facebook, and I don't really use Facebook.
I gotta interrupt. I have some breaking news right now. Whoops. Breaking news right now. Senate GOP and Democrats have signed off on a bill to provide funding to states for a nationwide red flag laws. Yep. It's happening. The legislative text for the Senate bipartisan bill has been released. It includes enhanced background checks for those under 21 years old, funding for mental health and school safety, incentives for states to implement red flag laws, and limits on the boyfriend loophole.
Have one, so I went to the Facebook app, and I'm just kind of panicky at this point because this has never happened to me, and my mom is involved, and I'm like her only child. So I'm just asking him, like, well, where are the messages? All I see is the feeds. Like, how do you get to the messages? And he said, it's another icon on your phone that says Messenger. And I went to that icon, and it was just a lot of horrible things there.
And those horrible things, did they include threats?
Yes, a lot of threats, wishing death upon me, telling me that, I'll be in jail with my mother, and saying things like, be glad.
If you want to know how red flags work, let me tell you about a little. That's how it works, right? So Jane, a progressive radical, works at the same company as Randy, who posts content of his scary guns and target shooting. Triggered by this content and knowing that Randy recently argued with his boss, Jane reports him to authorities. Leftist-controlled police departments are forced to ask courts to seize Randy's guns. Randy is unable to defend himself in court or counter the evidence, and the judges infringes on Randy's rights and takes away his right to own guns. That's how red flag laws work. You are literally forced. Anybody can call and say so-and-so is a threat, and then the police will present that to the courts. The courts will then take your guns, especially if you live in a liberal area. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Right now. If you're a Trump supporter, say goodbye to your guns. Let's just say, you already have during a Senate hearing last week where you have them literally saying Trump supporters are a threat to the United States. The federal judge, the ex-federal judge said that. Red flag laws do not work. You want to know how I know they don't work? Buffalo shooter. That's how. New York State has got red flag laws already in place, except the people that are supposed to report the mental health issues didn't do it in that case, and then the white supremacists went out, bought guns, went into a supermarket and killed 10 people. He should have been barred. You know how they do work, though? The one person whose wife says, oh, I was abused by said guy. There's no evidence of it. They don't charge him with it, but they take his guns because now the wife is afraid to go home. Then this guy has to go and spend thousands and thousands of dollars through the court system to get his right to own guns back, even though he's never once been convicted of a crime or even charged with a crime. That happened, North Carolina. Or it happened somewhere, I don't know. Someone said, well, he drove from another state. The Buffalo shooter did not. He lived in New York. That's not true. Don't lie. Don't lie. Oh.
That it's 2020 and not 1920.
Fucking, is this the America we all thought it was?
Were a lot of these threats and vile comments racist in nature?
A lot of them were racist. A lot of them were just hateful. Yes, sir.
In one of the videos we just watched, Mr. Giuliani accused you and your mother of passing some sort of USB drive to each other. What was your mom actually handing you on that video?
A ginger mint.
It wasn't just Rudy Giuliani. We heard President Trump make these false allegations repeatedly during his call with Secretary Raffensberger. Let's listen to a portion of what he had to say about you and your mother.
We had at least 18,000, that's on tape. We had them counted very painstakingly. 18,000 voters having to do with Ruby Freeman. She's a vote scammer, a professional vote scammer and hustler.
Donald Trump attacked you and your mother using her name 18 times on that call. 18 times. Ms. Moss, can you describe what you experienced listening to former President Trump attack you and your mother in a call with the Georgia Secretary of State?
I felt horrible. I felt like it was all my fault. Like, if I would have never decided to be an elections worker, like, I could have done anything else, but that's what I decided to do. And now, for lying and spreading rumors and lies and attacking my mom. I'm her only child. Going to my grandmother's house. I'm her only grandchild. And my kid. It's just felt so bad. I just felt bad for my mom, and I felt horrible for picking this job and being the one that always wants to help and always there. Never missing not one election. I just felt like it was my fault for putting my family in this situation.
Well, it wasn't your fault. Your mother was kind enough to come speak with us earlier. Let's listen to her story in her words.
My name is Ruby Freeman. I've always believed that when God says that he'll make your name great, but this is not the way it was supposed to be. I could have never imagined the events that followed the presidential election 2020. For my entire professional life, I was Lady Ruby. My community in Georgia, where I was born and lived my whole life, knew me as Lady Ruby. I built my own business around that name, La Ruby's Unique Treasures. A pop-up shop catering to ladies with unique fashions. I wore a shirt that proudly proclaimed that I was, and I am, Lady Ruby. Actually, I had that shirt on. I had that shirt in every color. I wore that shirt on Election Day 2020. I haven't worn it since, and I'll never wear it again. Now I won't even introduce myself by my name anymore. I get nervous when I bump into someone I know in the grocery store who says my name. I'm worried about who's listening. I get nervous when I have to give my name for food orders. I'm always concerned of who's around me. I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security. All because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
Ms. Moss, how has this experience of being targeted by the former president and his allies affected your life?
It's turned my life upside down. I no longer give out my business card. I don't transfer calls. I don't want anyone knowing my name. I don't want to go anywhere with my mom because she might yell my name out over the grocery aisle or something. I don't go to the grocery store at all. I haven't been anywhere at all. I've gained about 60 pounds. I just don't do nothing anymore. I don't want to go anywhere. I second guess everything that I do. It's affecting my life in a major way, in every way, all because of lies. For me doing my job, same thing I've been doing forever.
Your mother also told the select committee about how she had to leave her own home for her safety and go into hiding after the FBI told her that it would not be safe for her there before January 6th and until the inauguration. Let's listen to a clip of her story in her own words.
Around the week of January 6th, the FBI informed me that I needed to leave my home for safety. And I left my home for safety around that time.
Understood. How long did you stay out? Did you remain outside of your home for your own safety?
I stayed away from my home for approximately 2 months. It was horrible. I felt homeless. I felt, I can't believe this person has caused this much damage to me and my family. To have to leave my home, that I've lived there for 21 years. And, I'm having to have my neighbors watch out for me, and I have to go and stay with somebody. It was hard. It was horrible.
And that your conversation with the FBI about needing to leave your home for your own safety, or perhaps recommending it, do you remember, was there a specific threat that prompted that, or was it the accumulation of threats that you had received?
What prompted it was getting ready to, January 6th was about to come. And they did not want me to be at home because of all the threats and everything that I had gotten. They didn't want me to be there in fear of, the people were coming to my home, and I had a lot of that. So they didn't want me to be there just in case something happened. I asked, how long am I going to have to be at home? And they said, at least until the inauguration.
Ms. Moss, I understand that people once showed up at your grandmother's house. Tell us about that experience.
I received a call from my grandmother. This woman is my everything. I've never even heard her or seen her cry ever in my life. And she called me screaming at the top of her lungs, like, Shay, oh my gosh, Shay, just freaking me out, saying that there were people at her home, and they, they knocked on the door, and of course she opened it and seeing who was there, who it was, and they just started pushing their way through, claiming that they were coming in to make a citizen's arrest. They needed to find me and my mom. They knew we were there. And she was just screaming and didn't know what to do. And I wasn't there, so, you know, I just felt so helpless and so horrible for her. And she was just screaming. I told her to close the door. Don't open the door for anyone. And, you know, she's a 70-something, I won't say, year-old woman, and she doesn't like having restrictions. She wants to answer the door. She likes to get her steps in, walking around the neighborhood. And I had to tell her, like, you can't do that. You have to be safe. You know, and she would tell me that at night, people would just continuously send pizzas over and over to her home, you know, and they were expecting her to pay for these large amounts of pizzas. And she went through a lot that she didn't have to. And once again, it made me just feel so horrible.
In addition to the personal impact this experience has had on you and your family, one of the things that I find most disturbing is how these lies discourage longtime election workers from continuing to do this important work. Tell us, if you would, of the other election workers shown in that State Farm Arena video and their supervisors. How many are still election workers in Fulton County?
There is no permanent election worker or supervisor in that video that's still there.
And did you end up leaving your position as well?
I left.
Ms. Moss, I want to thank you for coming in to speak with us and to thank you for your service to our democracy. What we have just played is a truly horrible and appalling sample, but just a sample of the things that were said about you and your mother following the election. I want to say how very sorry I think we all are for what you've gone through, and tragically, you're not alone. Other election workers around the country have also been the subject of lies and threats. No election worker should be subject to such heinous treatment just for doing their job. With your permission, I would like to give your mother the last word.
Yes.
We're just going to play the tape.
There is nowhere I feel safe. Nowhere. Do you know how it feels to have the President of the United States to target you? The President of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one. But he targeted me, Lady Ruby, a small business owner, a mother, a proud American citizen who stand up to help Fulton County run an election in the middle of the pandemic.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Thank you, Ms. Freeman, or as America now knows her, Lady Ruby, for your service to Fulton County, Georgia, our country, and our democracy. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Chief. Ms. Moss?
Fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck this shit. Vernon Jones lost his race. Merritt Hale lost his race. We're just going to be entering the same thing. Same thing. Oh boy. Oh boy. Lots of weird shit going on. So yeah, Vernon Jones has lost his race. Mike Collins is apparently going to win, according to the AP and CNN and everybody else. He's a businessman. He was endorsed by Brian Kemp. Vernon Jones, obviously, was a Republican, who I liked listening to him speak in front of the at a funeral. I don't know what you're talking about. They're going to steal it right in front of her face and you can tell us there's nothing we can do. Yeah, Vernon Jones lost. Yep. What is the New York debate? I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, Ben Klein is facing Jennifer Lewis, apparently, who, I don't know, like she's not even on Ballotpedia. Man, he only he had 250,000 votes. 250,000 votes in this entire county, and that's how he won, with 63% of the vote. I don't know, man. They can still write in, type in November, right? Yeah. It's hard from what I understand to do a good write-in campaign. There have been people that have done it before, but I mean, yeah, that's some that's some hard work right there to do a write-in campaign. Yes, Vernon Jones lost. Yes. Ay. So we're gonna have a lot of the same people. A lot of it's the same fucking rhinos that didn't do shit. Like Ben Klein, he's a rhino. Like, I don't care that he was Trump endorsed. I don't give a shit about that. The guy voted to send $40 billion to Ukraine. He's a guy that's refused repeatedly to come on this show. He's the guy that refused, and then Merritt Hale gives this really like, oh, thank you so much. I call him a friend, blah, blah, blah. Motherfucker, he refused to debate you. I should just do it just to fuck with everybody. Fuck them all. I'm so annoyed. Lady from my town ran on a ticket, withdrew, and still won because they voted down the line. She's now going to take the seat. Yeah, that's local elections. It's like running for mayor. Like, mayor in this town got 150 votes, to be mayor. You know what I mean? But now, granted, we live in a red district, so we don't have to worry about the seat being taken by a Democrat. But damn. Someone said, I have a 501c4 in San Diego promoting and helping candidates, and all the GOP candidates were all well below the left candidates. You think people would get a clue, and they just don't have any common sense? No. They don't. They don't at all. You can vote for whoever. Yeah, I know. Everyone can vote for whoever. But here's the thing. Like, can you get them to write you in? Like, there hasn't been anybody in a long time. Oh, fuck. Man, with the absentee ballots and shit, maybe the write-ins would work. It's fucking stupid. Ay. Let me see what else. Some of the other elections. Virginia's second district, Jen Kiggins. She's a Navy veteran nurse practitioner backed by establishment Republicans. Jerome Bell, who last year in a tweet calls for the execution of those involved in election fraud, lost. He was backed by Michael Flynn, Gosar, Turning Point Action, and the group affiliated with far-right activist Charlie Kirk. Wait, so they think Charlie Kirk is a far-right activist? That's funny. And Brad Raffensberger is going to face off with B. Nugent. Georgia State Rep B. Nugent is apparently the Democrat. Fuck all this shit. There's a couple more races. Charlie Bailey will win Democratic primary runoff election for Georgia Lieutenant Governor. He's a lawyer and backed by Stacey Abrams. Burt Jones, who is endorsed by Donald Trump, will face off with him. In Virginia's 3rd district, Terry Namkung will win the Republican primary in Virginia's 3rd district. Let's see. Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser faces 3 primary challengers in the Democratic primary. That just closed at 8 o'clock, so we're not going to hear anything. God, wouldn't it be nice if Bowser was fucking outed by someone else? Someone said you want to be strategic and not split votes, but man, this is unreal. Primaries where it's. I mean, here's the thing. What do you like? Say, yeah, you like do a write-in campaign or something, and you split votes. Split votes between who? A rhino Republican or a Democrat? Fuck that. Fuck that. Oh my god, dude. Oh, that just really pissed me off. It really pissed me off. Let me see with the chat. That's why we have to get really dark money. Yeah. Well, hell, if I can't even raise gas money, I'm not going to run a campaign. I wouldn't be able to raise any money. Fuck that. God, can you think of the damage, though? That's the only thing I think about. If I was to do like a write-in campaign or something like that, just the damage, the publicity, because I'm such an outspoken person anyway. Fuck. At least I could hold people to account. You know what I mean? As long as I vote, that's all that matters, right? No, you still got to vote. You can vote for someone other than a Dem or a Rhino. Yeah, there's nobody else. Yeah, I don't know. Fuck it. It's just ruined my night. It did. I mean, we've been listening to the sham January 6th hearing the whole time, but fuck this. I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed by this shit. Oh, I'm annoyed. Let me see what's going on. What about blah, blah, blah. How much can a long... So someone wanted me to talk about the red flags. So apparently Senate Republicans and Democrats have worked out some new deal where they're going to be working together at fucking our country over, like royally, forever. And that's, yeah. So this is apparently the deal. All right. So you know. A group of senators released a text Tuesday evening of a bipartisan gun safety bill, a key moment for the high-stakes effort to pass legislation to counter gun violence at a highly polarized political climate. Release of the bill text comes days after lawmakers haggled over several stickling points, raising questions over whether it be finalized or if the effort would fall apart. Lawmakers will now have to race the clock before Senate departs for the July 4th recess in an attempt to get the bill passed out of chamber. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Tuesday evening that he would move quickly to bring the bill up with an initial procedural vote as soon as tonight. Following that, we will move to final passage as quickly as possible. The Senate is now expected to vote as early as 7:30 on a procedural vote. Is Senate in session right now? Not that I fucking want to watch this shit. Like, fuck them. No, the guns and mental health. Motion to proceed to the consideration of the House and message with something. Maybe they will be debating it. I don't even want to fucking cover any of this shit. Like, this fucking fuckers. The bill is titled the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, was released by Democratic Senators Chris Murphy and Kirsten Sinema and Republican Senators Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina. The Senate compromise legitimation on gun safety includes millions of dollars in investments in mental health, school safety, crisis intervention programs, and incentives for states to include juvenile records in the National Instant Criminal Background Check system. It comes after the release earlier this month of an agreement in principle for a deal on bipartisan gun legislation, which notably had the backing of 10 Republican senators. At least 10 Republican senators will need to join with Democrats to back any gun bill for it to overcome a filibuster and pass the Senate. It's not clear how widespread GOP support will be for the measure now that the legislative text is finalized, but in a key indicator of support, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said Tuesday evening he supports the bill. Fuckers. So that's what they're voting on now, right? Is it? Dun, 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 to make your community safer is what it says. It's a fucking long ass bill too. How many? 80 pages. Could try to go through it. I mean, it's just going to be too long. Medicaid and telehealth, it just goes through all that stuff. Chip. Fucking fuckers, bro. The red flag laws are such a bad thing, and they don't work, and they are so going to be abused. They are so going to be abused. Like, red flag laws will be abused so fucking fast and so hard, dude. What is this? This is... Oh, wait. They're getting rid of... Oh, so you can't transfer guns either? Requirements relating to background checks for persons under age of 21 if a licensee contacts a system established under the section regarding a proposed transfer of a firearm. The criminal history repository, a juvenile justice information system as appropriate in the state. So they go through the whole juvenile records. How does that work, though? Because many states have, like, youthful offender and all that stuff. How does that work? Because the federal government isn't going to... Like, if you have a youthful adjudication and you're you know, adjudicated, you know, your charges are gone or erased, the FBI still will have that detail? Oh, wait. So this also says 10 days. So that's the expanded background checks. And now they'll have 10 days to do background checks on people under 21 instead of 3 days. Or no, is it a 10-day wait period? I don't fucking know. This thing's stupid. It's stupid. And you know damn well they haven't read this. You know damn well that none of these senators have read this or worked on it. I'm trying to just scroll down to the background. I probably already missed it, though. I probably buried it in there. Universal background checks, just one thing. Any person who smuggles or knowingly takes out of the United States a firearm or ammunition or attempts to conspire to with intent to engage or promote that would be punishable under the Controlled Substances Act. What? Would constitute a felony or a federal crime of terrorism. What? If you take... What is this shit? What is this shit? Amendments to Section 2D. The subsection should not apply to the sale and amendment of a firearm. Fuck, there's too much shit. Whoever knowingly receives or transfers a firearm or ammunition or attempts to, conspires to do so, knowingly or having reasonable cause to believe that such firearm or ammunition will be used to commit a felony, a federal crime of terrorism or drug trafficking crime, such as terms or a crime, blah, 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 will be charged as a felony. So is that new? I don't know. That should already be a law, right? If you know that the person's going to commit a crime with a gun, you shouldn't be allowed to sell them. Local law enforcement. Blah, blah, blah. Defining the dating relation. This is a boyfriend thing. The term dating relationship means a relationship between individuals who have recently had a continuing serious relationship. Whether a relationship constitutes a dating relationship under subsection should be determined by the length of the relationship, nature, and the frequency and type of interaction between the individuals. So if you're effing, you're still okay to... what's the boyfriend clause? I don't even know what the fucking boyfriend clause is, too. I don't even care. We're so fucked. We're so fucked. And all the people that they're putting in office don't care about us either. That's what it means. Someone said read it all. It's 80 fucking pages. I'm not reading. I just tried to glance at it. I don't want to read it. I don't fucking care. I don't effing care. We're so fucked. We're so fucked. We're so fucked. That's the song. That's how I sing it. Anyway, tomorrow I'm going to disembark. I'm going to embark, not disembark. That means like you're stopping. Tomorrow I'm going to jump on the RV, the old RVer, and I'm going to take off on the road. You're welcome. I'm heading out to Mendon, Illinois. I'll be out there on Saturday at the Adams County Fairgrounds. The Donald Trump rally is that day. I could just say it's all for me and you guys would go there and be like, holy shit, Steve's popular. No, it's the Donald Trump rally, the Save America rally. I'm going to be out there. I'm not going into the event. I'm going to be at the event doing a broadcast, talking to people and stuff like that, meeting all you guys, giving away a ton of free coffee, making a name for myself. But yeah. It should be good. If you guys are anywhere close to the Adams County Fair in Mendon, Illinois, that's Mendon, Illinois, come on out. See me Saturday. I'll actually be there Friday night, but I'm not sure where. But yeah, come on, hang out. Bring your folding chair. Like, fuck going in and waiting in line, all that shit, unless you want to see Donald Trump. But as long as I have internet, man, I have a projector. I'll show that shit right on the side of the damn trailer. We'll watch Donald Trump right there, sitting around having a good old time, drinking coffee in the heat. But yeah, I'm going out there. Fuck me, this politics. I got to go talk to my wife. I'm gonna be like, babe, I got some bad news. She's going to be like, what's the bad news? I'm running for fucking no, I'm just oh my God, I'm so annoyed. Someone said link to Bill. What? Who's Bill? No, I'm just kidding. I'll put it in the chat. Fuck all y'all. All right, you guys want the link to the bill? Send me $5,000 in cash app. No, I'm just kidding. The link to the bill is in the chat right now. You can see it. But yeah, if you do want to support us in everything we do here, I am asking to do like a Cash App blitz. You'll see it right there. It's in your chat right now. April just put it, and I'll put it again. We need your help. Fuel is fucking expensive, but if I don't go out there and tell everybody what the hell's going on, you're never gonna know. You're never gonna know. So I would appreciate everyone who can, and yep. Every time you question what to do, just look up Ed Durr from North Carolina. Yep. He won a state race, though, not a big rally, or a big race, not a national race. He won a little state race with what, like 100 votes or some shit like that. I wouldn't even care about winning. I just care about getting on the national stage and shitting on every fucking rhino. No, I would. Oh my God, I gotta stop talking. I'm gonna convince myself to be a moron. Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. Oh dear. Oh yeah. 5 Antifa tears for each gallon of gas. That is true. Did social media pay you out today? Only half of Facebook. No Google AdSense. I really don't know what's up with that, which is a problem because that always comes on the 21st of every month. And I'm wondering if it's because of Juneteenth. Yeah, I logged into AdSense. They haven't paid it. Not that it fucking matters. It's tiny this month anyway. Yeah, they haven't. Yeah. June 21st, they sent it. Or no, May 21st, they sent it. April 21st. March 21st. But today is the 21st. And yeah, they haven't sent it. So that's it. My husband just went to fuel up now and no def at 3 stations. That's not good. Someone asked what we're waiting on. You'll know when you see it. This identifies as 5,000, Coley Wright said. Yeah. I saw that, Steve, Jennifer. It's crazy. There is they've been talking about it for a while, DEF shortage. Let's see how big that comes. We already got let's see the AAA, and then I'm just going to fucking call it a day. Fuck this shit. What a way to ruin the night, huh? I mean, gas prices are down 4 cents from what they were last week, but diesel is continuously rising. Diesel is 581.2. Actually, so it dropped, 0.3 of a penny from yesterday to today. Our highest gas price ever was, 7 days ago, a week ago today. It's crazy. Pennsylvania, I better make sure I fill up before I get to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania average is $5. Illinois is $5.50. Fuck me. I thought I'd be good with like $1,500 in fuel. Probably not. It's just gonna keep going up. That's just I don't care. I'm going. That's what I'm gonna do. So who's gonna meet me in Mendon, Illinois? You know, come on out. Let's hang out. You know, I'll be working during the morning, giving away coffee and selling the coffee cups and all that stuff, the mugs, the custom mugs that I made. But in the afternoon, let's just sit around. Let's have a round table right at the Trump rally. Cameras and everything. We'll just sit there and talk. You could go live. Say hi to all the viewers. Bring your folding chairs because I don't have chairs. Damn it, bro. Damn it. Anywho, yeah, I'll see you. I will see you. And everyone that was hoping that I put this whole hearing on Citizen Stringer, this fucking hearing sucked butthole. So I'll be honest. I'm not going to spend my time uploading this and any of that. It wasn't good. You know, it was just, I knew it wasn't going to be good anyway, you know? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, you know what? I'm not even going to do shit. I'm just going to put on the radio after. I'm fucking pissed. I am pissed. I don't care who you are right there. I am pissed. I got to make this go until, let's do the radio until, fuck, I also got to schedule this whole shit for the whole week because I'm not going to be here. Let's do the radio straight to 8 a.m., huh? Yeah. Yeah, radio. So no one knows what I'm doing. So we started a radio station, Citizen Stringer Radio. You can listen on the TuneIn app. But yeah, we've got that all set up. The thing that I typically have to do every day, and I often forget, is I got to set up the shows for the next day, and then I scramble at 5 o'clock in the morning to get them all set up. So typically what I like to do is just get the night programming and then the Santilli show, and then I do the rest in the morning. Tomorrow's going to be hit or miss. I will go live, but it may just be audio only if I'm driving or something like that. I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do yet. It all depends on what time I get out of here, because I still haven't got the coffee, and I really need to get the coffee in here so I have coffee to sell when we're out there. And it all depends what time FedEx gets here, because they haven't come yet, which sucks. You know, shout out to Jeremy for that $10 contribution. I appreciate that. And if anyone did the super yeets, I can't see it, but I appreciate you guys too. Business expenses, Steve. Yeah. Fucking A. Ben Klein wins the Republican primary for my district with like 81% of the fucking vote. But that's like 10,000 votes because nobody votes in the primaries. But he won in 2020, I believe it was, or 2000, whatever it was, with 238,000 votes, something like that. Anyway, fuck all y'all. I'll see you guys tomorrow at some point. I don't know what time, but I'll see you tomorrow.